iPhones in India. India is only 2% of Apple's global market. The only reason they are manufacturing iPhones in India is because they can export them to the rest of the world. We have to achieve this kind of competitiveness in every other sector. The investment not picking up is a signal that public capex and public investment in infrastructure is not the answer. So what is the answer? And I think the government is on the right track, and you've been mentioning it yourself on your show. Deregulation is the answer. Ease of doing business is the answer. A globally competitive business climate is the answer. So that's the big picture that we should be looking for from this budget. Deregulation, I just, one last point I'll make is it comes in two flavors. One is you have to reduce the obstacles. The other is you have to increase the certainty and the stability. And both of these things are really more signals that you can expect from a budget. Concretely, I think tariff is the one big thing that we should expect. Tariff rationalization and tariff lowering is something that I'm really looking forward to, at least in the budget.
Okay. Rajiv Memani, President CII, good person to get on that. Private investment, just not picking up. And I'd like you to give me a good answer as to why that's happening, Rajiv.
Hi Rajdeep. No, I don't think it's accurate to say that private investment is not picking up. I think private investment may not be growing to the extent that we all want to desire. But I think private investment is picking up in the last 12 months, 18 months. Even if you look at the data for March 25, I think private investment showed good signs. I think during the first quarter of this year, it slowed down a little bit because of all the tariff-related uncertainty, but it started picking up again. So I don't think it's accurate to say that private investment is not picking up. That's first. Can it do better? Surely it can do better. I think there's much greater potential. Balance sheets are under-leveraged. Economy is growing very well. So it should be picking up much more. And I think my personal view is that it will pick up more as capacity utilizations go up. And I think as we have more focus around ease of doing business, more focus around factor cost of production efficiencies in India, more focus around which are the goods and services that India really wants to focus on. Maybe a list of 7,500 goods that India wants to focus on. I think it'll get a boost further. One of the other reasons, Rajdeep, that there is a challenge also is because of the global uncertainty, and you have large manufacturing capacity that's built up in one part of the world. I think there is always the price volatility, commodity volatility that happens because of that. And also the amount of technology and investments that's gone there. I think sometimes even for private sector to take that risk and leap of faith, they would need some more, maybe that's why I said focused PLIs, focused incentives to ensure that they're able to weather the initial storm when they're looking at setting up large investment capacities in India.
Maria, you have the numbers.
Yes, so if we were to look at the private investment trends, the latest trends in India, sir, it looks like, in terms of financial year 2023-24, it was around 4.2 trillion rupees. In 2024-25, it did go up, but in 2025-26, it is around 4.89. What do you think should be done, Rajiv Memani, in this sector then, for the private sector to pick up that trend, because that's needed?
No, it is. I think it is picking up. I mean, if you go sector by sector, you can say that the numbers are picking up. As I said, the first half of this year, it was slightly slower because of what was happening in the rest of the world. But private investment is picking up. Having said that, as I said, there is always more that can be done given where Indian economy is. My first thing is, I think we need to have, as was said earlier by Rahul, I think on ease of doing business, on factor reforms, I think India needs to be more competitive. Land reforms, availability of land. It takes more time to set up plants, projects in India. And I think the government has done a lot in the last 6 to 12 months. I think we also need to communicate much more. So I think that's one area that I think we need to be doing more. And secondly, I think we need to have, we talked about the success in electronics manufacturing and others. In semiconductors, we are seeing good success. One of the reasons for that is we have a very clearly laid out incentive schemes, especially in newer areas and others, PLIs or other incentives that have been given. I think for chosen products where India wants to be, as was said in the economic survey, where we want to be strategically well positioned, strategically resilient or dominant, whatever the word used is. I think those products we need to identify and have a clearly laid out path in terms of technology partnerships, incentives, buying preferences, long-term glide path on customs. I think those are the areas that we need to look at, and as was again said by Rahul earlier, I think if we have customs duty rationalization that we will, at least for the raw material products and others, that will also make India competitive. I do believe that as India signs the FTAs, and once these FTAs become effective, which will take, which could take 6 to 12 months depending on the FTA we're looking at, if that happens, then that will give another boost to manufacturing in India. But I do agree, Rajdeep.
Dr. Maru, you wanted to put a word in.
Be one of the central things.
Sorry, Rajiv. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
This is when I miss Rahul Bajaj. You said earlier about Indian business giving 11 out of 10 for every budget. The fact is...
I said it a few days ago. Yes, maybe yesterday. Yes.
The fact is that private investment has not been picking up for 10 years. Forget about last quarter or the last year. For 10 years, it's been stagnant. And the government, the finance minister herself asked Indian business, why are you guys not investing? We talk about animal spirits. I wish Indian industry were more forthright in telling the government why they are not investing, rather than fudge around and say, no, it's going up a little, it will go up. Come on, there is a major problem of confidence.
Yeah, go ahead, Raju.
No, so I would say private actors are rational. If you look at capacity utilization, it's been stuck below 80%.
Exactly.
Yes. So why would people put up more capacity if your existing capacity is not utilized?
No, but isn't it partly, or at least that's the explanation given, that we live in extremely uncertain times?
No, Rajdeep,
and the geopolitical risks are such.
I'm afraid that's not the answer. The real problem is demand. Why is capacity utilization low? It's not,
No, it's not low. I think it's optimal.
No, it's not optimal. It's below 80%. Optimal, you say optimal when you hit 80%. That's when companies begin to look at future investments. It's been below 80%.
Let me bring
it is productivity driven.
Demand is not picking up.
So productivity is making your assets sweat better.
No, but unless you get demand, unless domestic demand picks up, the government has made efforts.
Clearly, the economy has been growing, right? The economy has been growing.
But why is it therefore, when the economy is growing, when your macroeconomic numbers are so solid, why is it that investors are still not putting their money where their mouth is the question?
One data point and one question. Data point is Indian companies are sitting on at least 6 lakh crores.
Yes.
Okay. The question they are asking is, what do we produce that China is not able to sell in India? Because we are not competitive against China on across the board.
But Shankar, demand is also not picking up.
That's a secondary.
That is why you gave those GST reductions.
Demand has come from more service-led industries.
Demand goes up.
I'm also joined at the moment by Varun Santosh of the Congress. I'll go to Shehzad in a moment because he wants to respond. But Varun Santosh, it's all very easy to say, that private investment has not picked up. This government has done a lot to encourage private investment over the years. They've given various incentives. We can go to the corporate tax breaks that took place a few years ago. But for some reason, private investment is reluctant to invest. Now, is the fault lie with the government or does it lie with the investors? Does it lie with private sector? You're sitting on 6 lakh crores, but you're unwilling to put your money, I come back to it, where your mouth is. You'll come on our shows and say, yes, we want the animal spirits of the economy to revive, but they're not reviving.
Rajdeep, who marshals the resources of the
banks
country?
also have been restructured.
So you've got all that in place. The banks have been restructured. Why is investment not picking up?
See, what is the duty of the Prime Minister? To marshal the resources of the country to make it work for India, for Team India, right? Now, why is private investment not picking up? Because 8 lakh crore of, tax cuts have been given, yet demand has not picked up. It's because it's a complete mismanagement of the economy, of the Prime Minister.
Give me the exact mismanagement of the economy. How? Give me an example.
Right. Now, let's take the economic survey. The government's own economic survey of last year said that, quoting Lowy Institute of Australia, that power gap of India is -4, which is the worst in Asia after Russia and North Korea. Which basically means what is the power gap which Lowy Institute says? We have great economic resources, we have a great youth dividend, we have a great R&D system and tech ecosystem, yet we are not able to marshal all of this to work for Team India, which is a 140 crore people. Why? Why? Because let's go back to Gita, right? Which Shehzad Poonawala said. Gita says, Karmanye vadika raste ma phaleshu kadachan. Do your work and let the fruits play out.
Rajdeep,
What the politics of BJP is that they only focus on the politics, the fruits of power, and not delivering it to the people.
No, these are all, you see, Sean of political red line, I want specifics.
Please answer that.
We've got a quick response from you, Shehzad Poonawala. You see, this is the major challenge ahead of the budget. What are you actually going to do to revive the animal spirits? As I said, government has made various efforts, but they are not effectively working on the ground in terms of private investment. That's the reality. CapEx is what is driving your growth. It is not what should be driving your growth, which should be private investment.
Rajdeep, now please be fair to me and give me 30 seconds before you make your next intervention. First of all, if you see the corporate investment announcements, in H1 FY25 it was 7.9 lakh crore and now in H1 FY26 it is 14 lakh crore plus. Secondly, gross fixed capital formation is up by 7.8% in this FY, and apart from that it is up to 30% of our GDP. It used to be 27% of the GDP in 2014. If you are saying this has not happened, then let me give you specific examples what we have done. Look at the investments that have come in through the PLI scheme. Look at the fact that we have now streamlined the labor codes. Look at the fact that now we have even boosted the consumption through GST 2.0 reforms. Look at the ease of doing business. And yes, कर्म करना केवल हमारी चिंता नहीं, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की भी है. The regulation process that we are easing from here, we are removing compliances, we are removing archaic laws. What are the states? State governments also have to do their bit. They can't do Rajniti in the studio and then come and lecture us. Please tell me, Rajdeep, today,
most of these states are governed by the BJP.
1 second, Maria, just 10 seconds. Maria, हमारे स्टेट में तो अच्छा ही हो. For instance, I'll give you the state you are sitting in, Noida, Uttar Pradesh. In that place, we have now got a very progressive labor code. In fact, it allows the women to do the night shift also. But what is the Rajniti that Kerala does? कभी बोलो ना, बंगाल क्या राजनीति कर, बंगाल के लीडरशिप क्या राजनीति करते लेबर कोड पे? Why aren't they doing the labor code reforms properly? Why aren't they following the lead that the central government is following? So reform process and regulation को enabling environment में करना is also the duty of the states. Many of the things are also dependent on the state government. Having said that, secondly, now see, I am sure Congress will have problem with Gita, but let me give you just one example, Rajdeep. There used to be 2 mobile phone manufacturing units or assembling units in this country. Today there are 300 plus. ये किसने बनाया? ये जिन ने बनाया क्या? Is this not a reality? Is this not a reality that today India is self-sufficient in its own mobile phone requirement? First, we used to import it, because of which we used to pay import bill for electronic goods. Please, Rajdeep, tell me, toys we used to import, 70% of our toys was from China. Today we are exporting toys up to 37%. Defense goods exports have increased to 23,000 crores.
But Rajdeep, this is an interesting data here. If you look at it in terms of FDI for various states, it's Karnataka, which is not a BJP ruled state, which is in fact a Congress-driven state. It has $5.69 billion investment. So that's what it looks like right now. Moving to Maharashtra at 5.36, Tamil Nadu 2.67. So in top 3, it is the opposition ruled states.
Except Maharashtra, which is of course BJP ruled state. No, but before we make it a political debate, one last word I'll give you and then I'll move to Chandrajit Banerjee.
No, what is the real wage growth of India? That's the data that we should focus on. 0.01% over the last 5 years. Devastating number this is. 0.01% real wage growth of Indians over the last 5 years. This is
partly colored by the fact that 2 of those years were COVID years.
But still, over the last 3 years, right? So, COVID is far gone now. Now, why are they failing? Because they're passing the buck again now. And, sorry, Shehzad, Karnataka is leading, as Maria just pointed out. And point number 2.
Karnataka was in the top even when the BJP was in power. It's not as if Karnataka has suddenly become the #1 state. Once the Congress, you see, this is the problem. You all cherry pick what suits you all.
So let's go back to the basics then. Who leads Team India? It's the Prime Minister's job. He's the head coach, right? And
Okay,
what?
in fact,
No.
in fact,
So he's
Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has spoken. Let's
Yeah.
listen into what she's saying.
Sure.
I mean, it's very predictable reaction which is coming in from various political parties already now. Go ahead. Let's play the soundbite.
बजट से क्या उम्मीदें हैं आपकी?
What's your expectation from the budget?
It's very. I don't have much expectation, but जी, मैम एब्सटीन फाइल्स पे कुछ कहेंगे? बजट से क्या उम्मीदें हैं आपकी?
What's your expectation from the budget?
It's very. I don't have much expectation, but जी, मैम एब्सटीन फाइल्स पे कुछ कहेंगे?
Let's go straight across to Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General CII, now joins us. Mr. Banerjee, we are in the midst of an interesting discussion on what many believe is the big challenge for Nirmala Sitharaman at a time of global headwinds. How do you navigate what is a difficult economic environment and spur, to use the words famously used by Manmohan Singh in 1991, revive the animal spirits of the economy? The truth of the matter is, why is it that private investment is still not keeping up with what otherwise seems to be, from an Indian perspective, strong macroeconomic numbers?
So I think this was something which I would have really talked about strongly a couple of years back, or a year back even. But private sector investments have kicked in. If you see, there are sectors like the cement, there are sectors like steel, there are sectors like renewables. Many more sectors have actually picked up. So private sector investments are kicking in. But coming to your specific question, I'd like to really focus on, this is the time that, with the global headwinds which you really talked about, India can move into the next phase of reforms strongly, and reforms which are both at the central level and much more in the state levels that needs to be done. More powers to the states or rather incentives, if you would wish to use that word, to those states which do reform, and which they don't. And actually the investments figures in the states are in tune with those who are able to provide a stable infrastructure, be it social infrastructure, be it other infrastructure which are required. So I would really expect that capex to continue, which will crowd in private sector investment, reforms to continue, really focus on a cost and ease of doing business. But this is an opportunity, as you talked again about global headwinds. Let's also reform. Everything cannot be manufactured here. So trade reforms. So reforms in the trade side, three-tier duties in terms of reforms, which was one very important factor, which we talked about the reforms earlier.
Mr. Banerjee,
landmark reforms took place. That's very critical.
Is highlighting an important point that the investors are sitting on around 6 lakh crores. Now, they are not ready to invest. Why do you think there is that great degree of caution or concern here?
So there are investors, both domestic and foreign, which are sitting. There is a global sort of turmoil, as we have noticed. But as we have also seen across the globe, that India still sits on a good spot. Yes, there are issues which needs to be seen with the prism of the global turbulences, for which investors might be sitting in. But there are good projects. There are good investable projects where investors are putting in their money. Yeah, and the opportunity therefore lies in that there is money to be invested in. If we really create bankable projects, if we create focus on the capex, which I spoke about, and if we are able to crowd in investments through further reforms which we expect from the budget in a few minutes' time, I'm sure that will
Shankar
start
has a
flowing
question
in.
here. Please go ahead, Shankar.
Chandrajit, you've been a visitor to Davos and a knowledgeable person on many of the state investment summits. In your estimation, how many or what percentage of the MOUs get converted into actual investments?
See, I think, MOUs are one, but yes, you're right. I personally, and I think even states today have taken cognizance of the fact that what's more important is to be focused on what really happens on the ground and what investments come in. So because you mentioned about Davos this time, one was really looking at hopefully not more of MOUs, but more of what can happen on the ground, what type of investment opportunities and investments shall trickle in. I mean, I think the focus would have to be, and you are very right, the focus has to be on what would be the employment generated in X number of years and what would be the type of money that would be put onto the table in X number of years. Not there has to be finite period of time. And third, very importantly, what is it that one is offering in terms of infrastructure, just not subsidies and incentives, because sometimes that doesn't even come, the subsidies which are promised. So let's not get into that route of subsidies. Let's get into that in the route of where it can be much more stable pipeline.
I just want to understand, and do you believe that this budget, in a sense, given these global headwinds, and we've spoken about this, how adversity turns into opportunity, this becomes the opportunity to reset the way we look at tariffs. We've struck these trade deals. This is the budget where you send that signal, even without going into specifics, that is the direction we are going. You need something like that, to give business the sense that this is now our moment. You strike a FTA deal, which is going to take 6 to 12 months. We don't know till the final print is out what it will look like.
27 countries, 27 months.
Yeah, that's right. We don't know how long that will take. But what you can do today yourself is perhaps use this budget to actually do what, let's say, Chidambaram did in 97 with direct taxes, what Manmohan Singh did in 91 with trade liberalization. This is your moment to look at tariffs.
This is, Rajdeep, India's IPL moment, since we are both cricket fans. What happened to happened to Indian cricket after IPL is that we learned to play with foreigners in a domestic league. That gave us the competitive capability. The same has to be done by opening up sectors, allowing investments, dealing with FTAs.
Give me an example of the things that could be done. Any specific area where you believe this budget provides that opportunity?
Very simple, in agriculture. Agriculture has there is an opportunity to open up agriculture, to find ways to do.
Easier said than done. You've seen the political reaction, the backlash every time you mention the word. Mr. Varun Santosh's party will be doing high jumps. You see, in India, where you stand depends on where you sit. Even if he wanted to do it, even in the opposition, he's not going to allow it.
But his party has spoken about the second green revolution for at least about 30 years
That's
now.
right. But I'm saying,
the problem with...
do you believe that this is because even when it comes to trade deals, what's the first thing, including the Prime Minister, they say we are keeping agriculture and dairying out of any negotiation. Do you believe it is possible to use this opportunity?
Amul cheese is being sold in Switzerland. So let's not sort of run down our competitive edge of Indian companies. When India's software sector was opened, it was offered to all the Infosys and TCS that they will close the option of foreign investment in that area. And Narayan Murthy and others, I think FC Kohli and others said, no, we will not close down. We will have 100%. Whoever wants to come, that is the only way we will compete. Do we close down on GCC? Now, slowly, we have opened up insurance, we have opened up telecom, we have opened up GCCs. So this is the way. So you let foreign companies come into
Shankar,
India.
the concern is that only the bigger players...
Autos and textiles.
Okay.
So auto manufacturing, textiles, these are areas where I think India should accept more and more foreign investment.
In terms of agriculture, the concern is that only the bigger players like Amul and all will benefit. What about the small farmers?
No, but Mr. Amit Shah has been creating some 500 odd cooperatives. I don't know
yes.
to what extent, whether to control the finances of the cooperatives or to promote the cooperatives in agriculture. This has to be, somebody has to determine what is happening to the cooperative sector. This is the first time in independent India that the cooperative sector, the cooperative ministry and department is divorced from the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes. You spoke about 1991, right?
Yes.
About trade reform. What exactly did 1991 do? It exposed Indian industry to greater competition by reducing tariff rates from 3 digits to 2 digits, right? We once again come to the stage where unless we expose Indian industry to greater competition and stop mollycoddling them, you will not get economies of scale, you will not get competitiveness. India's biggest problem, manufacturing sector's biggest problem is lack of scale. We constantly complain about China. Unless you expand scale at home, unless you make yourself more competitive, improve labor productivity, how do you do this? By lecturing to CII and FICCI, you're not going to do it.
If Chandrajit Banerjee is still with us, if Mr. Banerjee, you're still with us, you want to... Okay, we'll try and get a CII representative of that. But Varun Santosh, if the finance minister today, and it is still an if, announces a kind of tariff rationalization or pushes for particular specific sectors, some of which have been mentioned, agriculture, textiles, automobile. Do you believe that the opposition will welcome it? Will the opposition welcome it, or will you stand, your stand will depend on where you sit? As we've seen with all governments. Prime Minister Modi had one view on GST when he was in as Gujarat Chief Minister, another view as Prime Minister. One view on a minimum support price for agriculture when in opposition, when in government. You're the same.
Rajdeep, let's focus on the outcomes, right? 11 years of announcements, what has it led to in terms of outcomes, right? That's where you measure.
The government has been reasonably successful on infrastructure. For example, you cannot deny there's been a massive infrastructure
Let me quote the economic survey on infrastructure.
Yes.
Right? Last year's economic survey said, infrastructure without reforms is concrete without consequence. So they have done a lot of infrastructure growth.
The cost of India has come down to below 8% of GDP.
So,
how did that happen? It used to be in double digits, well into double digits.
Economic survey of this government
You are
has said
randomly
that
picking up one sentence.
No.
Yeah, it's not that. Picture.
See, the concrete without consequence, what is happening is a lot of capital investment is happening. For example, metros are being constructed in Nagpur, in Lucknow. How many people are using those metros? Why are they not using the metros, right? So the problem is...
But really, the question is, it's not about how many are using or not using. The fact is that there is a web which is being established, keeping in mind that this is perhaps the base that is being created to make it more attractive.
It is not followed up with reforms on the governance front. You can't just build infrastructure.
GST reforms were reforms.
No. I'm talking about infrastructure. For example, you're talking about infrastructure, right? Now, why are metros not being used? Because the last mile connectivity is broken in our cities. What is the, for example, in Gurgaon, you have a triple engine Sarkar. What is the use of a triple engine Sarkar if you're not able to fix governance at the last
come in, Shahzad, respond to that.
Rajdeep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rajdeep, please be charitable to me. These are the people who used to have half kilometer. Be more charitable then. This is the government of UPA which constructed half kilometer of metro line per month. We have exceeded that by 6 kilometers per month. 5 cities to now 25 cities metro connectivity is there. They oppose Mumbai Metro in the name of RA Forest, even though the carbon footprint of people traveling on the metro would be much better than the forest entire thing, and it has been clarified. And these people are now lecturing us about last mile connectivity. Anyway, then see the manner in which they get away with their lies. They spoke about outcome. Bhai, Garibi Hatao was a nara. We take out 25 crore people from Garibi and we made it into Niyat. We gave 4.5 crore people the houses, Pakka Awas. We have given 10 crore people tap water connection, 10 crore people toilet connection. We have given 10 crore people Ujjwala gas cylinder, 50 crore people Ayushman Bharat cover. What did you do except for giving the nara? You gave outlay, we gave outcome. Thirdly, Maria, see, you are quoting the data of Karnataka. Let me clarify to you, not because I am a proud Maharashtrian. Maharashtra has been number one. You should see the whole year figure of FDI. You are quoting only Q1 of financial year, and there Karnataka is slightly ahead of Maharashtra, but in the entire year Maharashtra is ahead. And also, so don't quote quarterly figure and then say that this is a whole year figure. Maharashtra is much ahead, but this is Team India
Karnataka. As Rajdeep was pointing out, even at that time the picture was
exactly. So yes, Maria, I know. Maria, please let me complete. That's why I'm saying that Karnataka has been number 2 right from 2018 onwards. So it's not a new achievement. It is a Team India spirit. Where was Congress Party when German Chancellor came to Bengaluru? They were receiving that Rahul Baba. And fourthly, I want to just say that now Rajdeep was talking about the reform process and all these opening up this sector, that sector. Ask Mr. Congress spokesperson, does he support labor code reform? Rajdeep, ask him.
Okay, let me
Ask him,
you-
does he support the
but
labour
I
code
didn't-
reform?
As I said, we didn't want to make this a point, but a quick answer to that. The labour code reform, do your governments fully support it or not?
See, what we support is real wage growth, right? Are people of India having a real wage?
You gave 10% inflation.
Is money reaching the pockets?
If I speak to industry, they say that two great concerns are labour and land.
Right.
Right?
So,
when the government
now
goes in for a
land.
labour code reform,
Yeah.
do you support it or not?
See, we have made a stand clear on the labor codes is that you've increased the...
What is it?
No.
What?
You've increased it to 12 hours now, right? Which is wrong.
He's prevaricating.
Now, but the main point is, you've done all these reforms. What are the outcomes?
Now
the
let me expose
real
the
question.
One moment.
No.
In fact, a resident of
Let me
Lucknow has
expose
just
the
sent
One
me a
line.
message, Varun,
Yeah.
saying that Lucknow metros are choco-block.
See,
So that was also a response to say that
no.
infrastructure is being created, not being used.
look at Nagpur, look at Ahmedabad. The point is not...
Nothing has been built. It's better not to build.
You know, there are three issues.
This is not the hill to die on, I can assure you.
There were three issues.
Don't build infrastructure, it's the wrong hill to die on.
A leading global economist who tracks India, we met in Davos. He said if he had to give India a recipe for the future, he said India needs to focus on three things. One, rural productivity. Two, urban governance. And three, skilling. And he mentioned skilling very emphatically, and he gave the example of tourism. He said the number of tourists, for example, in a country like Switzerland are multiple times what come in a subcontinental size like India, and it makes a dramatic difference to the scale of the economy. Now, skilling has been one area where, just like infrastructure has been a strength of the Modi government, there have been questions over whether enough has been done for skilling.
The latest
There have been
CAG
lots
report, for example.
The CAG report points out, and look, again, this is also, states also have to pull their weight. This is not just about the center. Different states are showing different levels of skilling for their, but these are the issues that need to be tackled. Now, the budget comes along. Should the vision statement say what this global economist said, that these are my three priorities for the next 10 years? Rural productivity, urban governance and skilling. I will commit myself for the next 10 years to it.
On tourism, I'll just add one thing, Rajdeep. Now, one of the reasons why India has been really lagging in tourism is there's been just lack of air connectivity to the country. Direct flights are not there. Even today, we don't have a fully functional airline which is connecting Indian cities and Indian capital to other tourist hubs across the world. So people want to have those access points.
There aren't enough hotel rooms
There aren't
to
enough hotels.
accommodate Indians traveling.
It's a supply side problem.
Forget
Then
about foreigners.
when I ask a hotelier about that, they say there are still far too many regulatory compliances that they've got to
That is
go
what the
through.
government has to
So
solve.
the regulatory cholesterol, which we keep
let me tell
speaking
you one
about,
thing.
can the budget so-called vision statement in part 2 include this?
You know, in February 2014,
Yes.
I was at a FICCI National Executive Committee meeting in Ahmedabad, where the Chief Minister of that state, Mr. Narendra Modi, chose to speak for 1 hour addressing the FICCI National Executive Committee on tourism as a priority sector for the Indian economy and how he would in fact use tourism to generate employment. I was totally impressed. After his talk, I actually went up to him and complimented him. That is February 2014 in Ahmedabad. We are now in 2026. What have we done for tourism? And it's states and center. But point is, there are all these issues about connectivity, about hotels, about talent.
Now, I'm only asking this because the belief is, as Part B earlier used to be about tax, about indirect taxes, Part 2 this time is going to be a vision statement, is what we are being told as of now of the budget. Should the vision statement be very clear about what are the things that we are going to make, you know, not just catchword, not just Skill India, Stand Up India, not that. Actually, how are you going to translate these words into action, execute them with a clear roadmap? Isn't that what you want? Rather than handouts here, you know, for some scheme or the other.
Part B will be mostly about the change in the proposed customs framework and tariff.
Global opportunity.
So is this a big opportunity for that customs duty reform?
Well, you can open up your sectors. That is the only way you will sort of bring in the competition and sort of have companies come in and invest. The problem with the point that you made about agriculture, there's a simple data point, which is that nearly 50% of the workforce depends on 1/6 of the national income. Agriculture accounts for about 16% of GDP, and over 500 million people depend on that. Now, unless you change that, you will never. So we are number 4 in the size of the economy, number 140 in per capita income, because the mass is not as rich.
Another word that's going to likely to be used is defense. There's a general belief post-Operation Sindoor that the government would invest more on military spending. Maria, you have the numbers.
Yes, so just look at the defense military spending vis-a-vis our neighboring countries, which have been a matter of major concern for us, particularly China and Pakistan. The China defense budget has been going up substantially. As far as India is concerned, that has been largely around a straight graph, not much of the expenditure going up, the spending on defense military capability going up. This is where the sense is that the government could announce some major spending in terms of purchasing newer capabilities, because particularly after Operation Sindoor. Another area, Rajdeep, as we have been talking about, this is with regards to GRAMG, the Manrega, which has been renamed. And can that be a point of contention between the opposition and the government? The Manrega funds released, if you look at it, in 2024, that was the highest at 105.3k crores. It did go down, not really significantly, a little to 104.3k crores. Now it seems that this is where the government could increase that number. So, Shankar, come in on particularly with regards to the defense expenditure or defense spending. Is there a sense that this could go up?
More important thing would be...
one by one. Let Shankar finish first, yes.
More important thing would be, for a change, we are actually exporting our defense production.
That's a massive shift.
And
that's a massive shift.
Last month, Turkey had a defense exposition in Africa, selling defense equipment to all the African countries. We've had a footprint in Africa much longer than Turkey could have thought of. So why aren't we hosting defense exposition either in India or in Africa or to the other countries? We have a huge potential after the creation of the factories for small arms, for the
in
Uttar Pradesh, in the drone capacity that we are building. All of these are, bulletproof vests. We have built capacities in these areas, and we should sort of present it to the world and say that this is what we have to sell. You have to market and sell your potential.
Make in India.
Yes.
No. Sorry. This is one subject where I have been working on defense. I've written papers, several papers. I work for a defense think tank. Let me tell you one thing. There is a systematic pattern that after every major war, this defense expenditure goes up. 62, 65, 71, 98, right? So when you say post-Operation Sindoor, that's a wrong way of looking at defense spending. What many of us have been demanding is a 5-year plan for defense. And what a lot of private companies today are demanding is assured purchase of whatever they produce. Now, in defense, it is a unique industry in which there's only one customer, which is the government of India. And unless the government of India tells a private company that over the next 5 years, I will buy X amount of guns or rockets or whatever, the private company will not produce. And those are the commitments the government is still not making. I can tell you from my knowledge.
True.
So therefore, you need a reform in the way in which defense spending is done, in the way in which procurement is done, in the way in which we bring in private sector into defense manufacturing. Unless you address that issue at home, exports is only a byproduct. You cannot develop a defense industry based on exports.
You want a quick response to that?
So while we wait for this to happen, the acquisition process in Ministry of Defense has been a bugbear all the way from Lakshman Joshi till now. In 2002, I had done some work with him. So from then to now. So while we wait for it, if there is an opportunity to use the capacity that we are building to provide arms, what is China doing? What is Turkey doing? What is India doing? What was Iran doing till recently? It was selling to the Europeans.
I have 2 more guests joining us, and we've got about 10 odd minutes before the finance minister comes to Parliament. Punita Sinha joins us. She's an independent director on several companies, global investor for years. Thank you very much, Punita, for joining us. Also joining us is R. Mukundan, President Designate CI, Managing Director, CEO, Tata Chemicals. I want to put to you both my bugbear, which is the weak private investment despite years of policy push, Mr. Mukundan. Since 2019, we've had sharp corporate tax cuts, record capex on roads and ports, PLI subsidies, higher IT exemptions, GST cuts, yet private corporate investment is still below 2019 levels. What more do you expect the FM to do to boost private investment?
Thank you. Actually, I came only prepared for one issue, which I think we will all need to address, which is the private sector investment. I think you rightly pointed out, government has done a lot of heavy lifting. And this point about private sector investment lagging, I think was okay till about 2 years ago. But last 2 years, actually, it has caught up. As the capacity utilization of units have increased to about 75 to 80 odd %, the capex has started to kick in. I can give you some data which we have got from the latest capex pulse, which we got from our members, and we have tabulated them project by project. Year 26, 17,000 private sector projects are going to be coming on stream worth 9 lakh crores. 27, we're going to have 900 private sector projects coming on stream of 7 lakh crores. 11 large projects account for rupees 475,000 crores, and each one of these projects is 20,000 crore or more, largely in renewable energy, in electronics, in steel, in chemicals. And really, 26, 27, if you add, 2,600 private sector projects are coming on stream of 16 lakh crore, which is some of the first two figures I said. So there's been about 30% growth in capex. 92% of all new capex which is coming on stream, approximately of 10 lakh crore, is actually from private sector now. So really, I think private sector has started to come in. What we need to do is to do two things, which are the next step of changes which we need to bring. One is to continue to focus on factor cost, which is making sure the power cost and the logistic cost remains the focus. I think these are two big elements. And in the power sector, I think one of the key things we are saying is to make sure our discoms are made more viable. Privatization is a big issue there. I think we need to address that big issue. Having said that, I think the second piece is about building forward from where we are. We have had a great success, for example, in electronics, and I think the PLI scheme has been a big success. But the next step in electronics is going to be building an entire component base. Globally, when you look at this component base, they come within 10 square kilometers of each other from the main assembly unit. So we need large-scale parks and a very targeted component level, let's say, a PLI sort of a scheme to keep the momentum up and actually deepen the exports. When I say deepen the exports, the final product export number will be...
Yeah, Shankar, you had a question. Go ahead.
Hi, Mukundan. Just a quick question. I can see that these projects are coming on stream, which means that these investments have happened in the past, whatever. But I like the point that you made about components in automobile, components in electronics. The components in electronics has to come through only when we sort of invest in technology, R&D, right? What is our percentage of private sector investment in technology?
Yeah. So I think you raise a very different point, which is about R&D and technology investment. I think private sector certainly needs to boost that up. I think that's also been our focus. I think this RDIF fund which government has created, which is getting rolled out this year, I think will give a big boost. I think I'm pretty sure that many companies will take benefit of that. These are long-term funds being given on a 50-year basis with no interest, and companies can use that to sort of address the areas where they may not have very clear market potential assessed at the point of investment. Having said that, I think the key point on components is when you roll out the electronic component, initially I think it will be either a form of joint venture or the component manufacturers coming to India, exactly the way it happened in the automotive sector. When Suzuki came to India, they brought in their entire network of component suppliers and they all invested in and around in Gurgaon. And I think we got to think about how do we make this ecosystem build and how do we reach out. Of course, the big companies which are main buyers and main producers of the assembled units will be the first ones to come in. But then we've got to create an environment where the demand grows to a level where components come in. So I think it's a build forward. I think we've taken the first step. We need to go to the next step.
Okay. Punita, do you believe that while we've looked at private investment, the other concern is FDI? It's slowed down. And again, one reason which is given, and also the economic survey refers to it, is the geopolitical environment in which we live. It's also that there are other countries that are perhaps seen as better options today for American investors in particular. What do you believe needs to be done to give India, just as private investment needs to has been given various, but what can be done to get FDI back on the road? We've also seen currency volatility. There are lots of issues that perhaps make this a far more difficult environment for a finance minister to work in.
Yeah, so there are a number of reasons FDI has been weak. Of course, India's nominal GDP growth, as you know, is slower than what it has been, and the earnings growth of companies is also slower than what it used to be. So and the valuations have been high. So investors are obviously factoring that in and deciding which countries to invest. But more importantly, I think the view is that India has lagged on innovation, R&D, and particularly with this AI, the growth of AI, India isn't kept pace with US, China, and other countries. And we don't have a pathway to train our workforce appropriately to keep up with the new age technologies and to reskill them. But I think currency has played a very important role. When you talk to investors, they also feel that whatever money they brought into India, and it is, whether institutional investors, strategic investors, either they take a very, very long-term view and then the growth catches up. But in the medium term, currency has eaten a lot of their returns. So I think some kind of currency stability is very important because, 5-6% or more getting eroded immediately that you bring in the money is also a concern for companies, and that impacts their earnings.
I just want to quickly, Mr. Mukundan, before we switch to Parliament, just understand. Okay, he's left us. You see, it's the China factor. AI was mentioned. And AI, in Davos, for example, apart from Donald Trump, the big disruptor of our times is AI. It's changed. And the fact is, everyone you speak to say America and China are engaged now in an AI race. And India needs to start playing catch up. India is attempting to do so. We are going to have a big AI summit later this month. But the sense is, are we ready to even match up to what China is doing at the moment? And that's where investors perhaps are looking at other markets, possibly smaller countries as well as Vietnam, which simply roll out the red carpet. In India at the moment, there are still restrictions in various fields.
We have no role in the foundational story, really, because it's very high capital. It has to have very high tech thing. We are doing 30 and 300 nano chips, whereas NVIDIA is into 3 chips and all. So, let's forget. What is India's opportunity is the enormous quantity of data that we produce, the enormous domestic market scale. The AI story has moved from the producers of chips and stuff and the chatbots to who leverages these things in finance in other places, which is where the GCC story comes in. The Indian GCCs set up in India are actually using some of the stuff. So JP Morgan has 60,000 people in India in their GCCs. So that is being used. What India needs to do is to line up an agenda in agriculture. We want these problems to be solved. In governance, these are the problems we want to solve. In primary preventive healthcare, these are the problems. And then ask how will you integrate it. There's no point in having a whole Jambori circus tent and saying, oh, we are having AI summit. Oh, then, we are doing this. Hum log chip bana rahe hain. What is the outcome?
Okay. I've got just 2 minutes to 30 seconds.
No, what I want to say is that, private sector capex will only come in if there is incentive and returns for them. Otherwise, they can't just keep investing. So the government needs to provide the initial capex so that the conditions are set in place for then the private sector to invest in a profitable way.
But to be fair, this government has made efforts in that direction when it comes to capex. I just want to bring in at this moment Firoz Khambata, Chairman, CII Task Force on Affirmative Action, Group Chairman, Rasna Private Limited. Firoz, if you had 30 seconds, because the Finance Minister will be entering Parliament any time now. One thing, your wish list, your top #1 wish list today.
Bring the trust back. I think there one thing is clear. All the environment is there for big ticket investment. We need to bring the trust between the investor and the government. And when I say investor, Indian investor also and foreign investor also. When you tell anybody, welcome, we have the red carpet, but when you give him 1,000 papers to sign, declarations, bank guarantees, this, that, he gets afraid. When he doesn't know how to wade through the text, you know what I call the jungle, he gets afraid. And that doesn't help in getting big ticket investment. We need
I
big
like
ticket
it.
money
It takes
to
a
come,
Parsi.
especially
It
in
takes a
manufacturing.
Parsi to tell truth to power. I'm glad to see someone from CII telling truth to power. It takes a Parsi to tell truth to power. That you got to get rid of all this paperwork. Very quickly, you got 30 more seconds.
So I honestly believe that this is something which I expect from the government. And for example, I hit the taxation task force in CII and look at so many taxes are there. We need to rationalize them, the custom duties. So many disputes are there. We need a ADR, an alternate tax dispute resolution, a DRC, a mediation, a settlement, amnesty schemes. These type of things will help people to concentrate on business. Entrepreneurs want to concentrate on business. They don't want to go through all this. So I expect this to definitely happen.
Firoz, you made an important point about the custom reforms. The sense is, and the indication that has come from the government is that that's going to be part of Part B of this budget. And for the first time in 75 years, that part is going to be read today. And that's longer than the main budget.
Yes, and if you ask me the GST reforms, GST reforms actually has paved the way for this, because if you have lesser tax slabs, and for customs in 10 seconds I can tell you, why have, for finished goods, how can it be lower than the inputs? The inputs, that means the raw materials should be zero, intermediate should be at a lesser tax.
Mr. Khambata, we've got to cut you off because we have Mr. Om Birla, the Speaker in the House, the Lok Sabha convening on a Sunday. This is what, the second time in the history of this country. I was told somewhere in the late 1940s or 50s, there was a budget on a Sunday. We can check that, whether this is the second or first, but either way, it's certainly first in recent times.
First Sunday ever.
Okay, I'll reach.
Item number 1.
Sir, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table a copy each of the following papers, Hindi and English versions. Under Article 281 of the Constitution, Report for 2026 to 2031, Volume 1, Main Report of the 16th Finance Commission. 2. Report for 2026-2031, Volume 2, Annexures of the 16th Finance Commission. Number 3. Explanatory memorandum as to the action taken on the recommendations contained in the above report.
Item number 2, Manya Vitt Mantri Nirmala Sitharaman ji.
Honorable Speaker, sir, on the sacred occasion of Magh Purnima and the birth anniversary of Guru Ravidas, I present the budget for the year 2026-2027. Since we assumed office 12 years ago, India's economic trajectory has been marked by stability, fiscal discipline, sustained growth, and moderate inflation. This is the result of conscious choices we have made, even in times heightened uncertainty and disruption. Our government, led by Honorable Prime Minister Modi, has decisively and consistently chosen action over ambivalence, reform over rhetoric, and people over populism. We have pursued far-reaching structural reforms, fiscal prudence and monetary stability, whilst maintaining a strong thrust on public investment. Keeping Atmanirbharta as a lodestar, we have built domestic manufacturing capacity, energy security, and reduced critical import dependencies. Simultaneously, we have ensured that citizens benefit from every action of the government, undertaking reforms to support employment generation, agricultural productivity, household purchasing power, and universal services to people. These measures have delivered a high growth rate of around 7% and helped us make substantial strides in poverty reduction and improvement in the lives of our people. Today, we face an external environment in which trade and multilateralism are imperiled and access to resources and supply chains are disrupted. New technologies are transforming production systems while sharply increasing demands on water, energy, and critical minerals. India will continue to take confident steps towards Vikasit Bharat, balancing ambition with inclusion. As a growing economy with expanding trade and capital needs, India must also remain deeply integrated with global markets, exporting more and attracting stable long-term investment. As I begin Part A, I want to express my gratitude to the people for standing firmly with us as we forge our way together towards becoming one of the largest economies of the world. Our aim is to transform aspiration into achievement and potential into performance as we ensure that the dividends of growth reach every farmer, the scheduled caste, the scheduled tribes, the nomads, the youth, the poor, and the women. In Vikasit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue 2026, several innovative ideas were shared with our Prime Minister, which have inspired many of the proposals, making this a unique Yuva Shakti-driven budget. Our government's sankalp is to focus on our poor, underprivileged, and the disadvantaged. To deliver on this sankalp, and given that this is the first budget prepared in Kartavya Bhavan, we are inspired by three Kartavya. Our first Kartavya is to accelerate and sustain economic growth by enhancing productivity and competitiveness and building resilience to volatile global dynamics. Our second Kartavya is to fulfill aspirations of our people and build their capacity, making them strong partners in India's path to prosperity. Our third Kartavya, aligned with our vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, is to ensure that every family, community, region, and sector has access to resources, amenities, and opportunities for meaningful participation. This threefold approach requires a supportive ecosystem. The first requirement is to sustain the momentum of structural reforms, continuous, adaptive, and forward-looking. Second, a robust and resilient financial sector is central to mobilizing savings, allocating capital efficiently, and managing risks. Third, cutting-edge technologies, including AI applications, can serve us as force multipliers for better governance. Reform Express. Our government has undertaken comprehensive reforms towards creating employment, boosting productivity, and accelerating growth. After the Prime Minister's announcement on Independence Day in 2025, over 350 reforms have been rolled out. This includes GST simplification, notification of labor codes, and rationalization of mandatory quality control orders. High-level committees have been formed, and in parallel, the central government is working with the state governments on deregulation and reducing compliance requirements. The Reform Express is well on its way and will maintain its momentum to help us fulfill our kartavya. I now move to specific proposals. Under our first kartavya, to accelerate and sustain economic growth, I propose interventions in 6 areas. 1. Scaling up manufacturing in 7 strategic and frontier sectors. 2. Rejuvenating legacy industrial sectors. 3. Creating champion MSMEs. 4. Delivering a powerful push for infrastructure. 5. Ensuring long-term security and stability. And 6. Developing city economic regions. Scaling up of manufacturing in 7 strategic and frontier sectors. Biopharma Shakti, meaning biopharma strategy for health advancement through knowledge, technology, and innovation. India's disease burden is observed to be shifting towards non-communicable diseases like diabetes, cancer, and autoimmune disorders. Biologic medicines are key to longevity and quality of life at affordable costs. To develop India as a global biopharma manufacturing hub, I propose the Biopharma Shakti with an outlay of 10,000 crores over the next 5 years. This will build the ecosystem for domestic production of biologics and biosimilars. The strategy will include a biopharma-focused network with 3 new national institutes of pharmaceutical education and research, popularly known as NIPERs, and upgrading 7 existing ones. It will also create a network of 1,000 accredited India clinical trials sites. We propose to strengthen the Central Drug Standard Control Organization to meet global standards and approve timeframes through and approval timeframes through a dedicated scientific review cadre and specialists. India's semiconductor mission 1.0 expanded India's semiconductor sector capabilities. Building on this, we will launch ISM 2.0 to produce equipment and materials, design full-stack Indian IP, and fortify supply chains. We will also focus on industry-led research and training centers to develop technology and skilled workforce. The Electronics Components Manufacturing Scheme, launched in April 2025, with an outlay of 22,919 crores, already has investment commitments at double the targets. We propose to increase the outlay to 40,000 crores to capitalize on this momentum. A scheme for rare earth permanent magnets was launched in 2025 November. We now propose to support the mineral-rich states of Odisha, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu to establish dedicated rare earth corridors to promote mining, processing, research, and manufacturing. To enhance domestic chemical production and reduce import dependency, we will launch a scheme to support states in establishing 3 dedicated chemical parks through challenge route on a cluster-based plug-and-play model. Strong capital goods. Strong capital goods capability is a determinant of productivity and quality across different sectors. Towards building this capacity, I propose the following. High-tech tool rooms will be established by central public sector enterprises at 2 locations as digitally enabled automated service bureaus that locally design, test, and manufacture high-precision components at scale and at lower cost. 2. A scheme for enhancement of construction and infrastructure equipments will be introduced to strengthen domestic manufacturing of high value and technologically advanced CIE. This can range from lifts in a multi-storied apartment or firefighting equipment in multiplexes, large or small, and to tunnel boring equipments for building metros and high-altitude roads. I also propose a scheme for container manufacturing to create a globally competitive container manufacturing ecosystem with a budgetary allocation of 10,000 crores over a 5-year period. For the labor-intensive textile sector, I propose an integrated program with 5 subparts. 1. The National Fiber Scheme for Self-Reliance in Natural Fibers, such as silk, wool, and jute, man-made fibers, and new age fibers. Textile expansion and employment scheme to modernize traditional clusters with capital support for machinery, technology upgradation, and common testing and certification centers. 3. The National Handloom and Handicraft Program to integrate and strengthen existing schemes and ensure targeted support for weavers and artisans. Tex Eco Initiative to promote globally competitive and sustainable textiles and apparels. Samarth 2.0 to modernize the upgrade the textile skilling ecosystem through collaboration with industry and academic institutions. Further, I propose to set up a mega textile parks in challenge mode. They can also focus on bringing value addition to technical textiles. I propose to launch the Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative to strengthen khadi, handloom, and handicrafts. This will help in global market linkage and branding. It will streamline and support training, skilling, quality of process, and production. This will benefit our weavers, village industries, One District, One Product ODOP initiative, and also our rural youth. India has the potential to emerge as a global hub for high-quality, affordable sports goods. I propose a dedicated initiative for sports goods that will promote manufacturing, research, and innovation in equipment design, as well as material sciences. Rejuvenation of legacy industrial clusters. I propose to introduce a scheme to revive 200 legacy industrial clusters to improve their cost competitiveness and efficiency through infrastructure and technology upgradation. Creating champion SMEs and supporting micro enterprises. Recognizing MSMEs as a vital engine of growth, I propose a 3-pronged approach to help them grow as champions. Equity support. I propose to introduce a dedicated 10,000 crores SME growth fund to create future champions, incentivizing enterprises based on select criteria. I also propose to top up the Self-Reliant India Fund set up in 2021 with 2,000 crores to continue support to micro enterprises and maintain their access to risk capital. Liquidity support. With TREDS, more than 7 lakh crore has been made available to MSMEs. To leverage its full potential, I propose 4 measures. 1. Mandate TREDS as the transaction settlement platform for all purchases from MSMEs by CPSEs. serving as a benchmark for other corporates. 2. Introduce a credit guarantee support mechanism through CGT MSE for invoice discounting on TREDS platform. 3. Link GEM with TREDS for sharing information with financiers about government purchases from MSMEs, encouraging cheaper and quicker financing. 4. Introduce TREDS receivables as asset-backed securities, helping develop a secondary market, enhancing liquidity and settlement of transactions. Professional support. Government will facilitate professional institutions such as the ICAI, ICSI, ICMAI to design short-term modular courses and practical tools to develop a cadre of corporate mitras, especially in Tier 2 and Tier 3 towns. These accredited para-professionals will help MSMEs meet compliance requirements at affordable costs. Infrastructure. During this past decade, our government has undertaken several initiatives for large-scale enhancement of public infrastructure, including through new financing instruments such as Infrastructure Investment Trust (InvITs) and Real Estate Investment Trust (REITs), and institutions like NIIF and NABFID. We shall continue to focus on developing infrastructure in cities with over 5 lakh population, that is Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, which have expanded to become growth centers. Public capital expenditure has increased manifold from 2 lakh crore in 2014-15 to an allocation of 11.2 lakh crore in BE 25-26. In this coming year, that is financial year 2026-27, I propose to increase it to 12.2 lakh crores to continue the momentum. To strengthen the confidence of private developers regarding risks during infrastructure development and construction phase, I propose to set up an infrastructure risk guarantee fund to provide prudentially calibrated partial credit guarantee to lenders. Over the years, REITs have emerged as a successful instrument for asset monetization. I propose to accelerate recycling of significant real estate assets of the CPSEs through the setting up of dedicated REITs. To promote environmentally sustainable movement of cargo, I propose to 1. Establish new dedicated freight corridors connecting Dankuni in the east to Surat in the west. Operationalize 20 new national waterways over the next 5 years. Starting with National Waterways 5 in Orissa to connect mineral-rich areas of Talcher and Angul and industrial centers like Kalinga Nagar to the ports of Paradeep and Dhamra. Training institutes will be set up as regional centers of excellence for development of required manpower for these waterways. This will benefit youth in the entire stretch of the waterways to train and acquire skills. Further, a ship repair ecosystem catering to inland waterways will also be set up at Varanasi and Patna. And C, launch a coastal cargo promotion scheme for incentivizing a modal shift from rail to road to increase the share of inland waterways and coastal shipping from 6% to 12% by 2047. To enhance last mile and remote connectivity and promote tourism, I propose to give incentives to indigenize manufacturing of seaplanes. A seaplane VGF scheme will be also introduced to provide support for operations. Carbon capture, utilization and storage. Aligning with the roadmap launched in December 2025, the carbon capture, utilization and storage technologies at scale will achieve higher readiness and in end-use application across 5 industrial sectors, including power, steel, cement, refineries, and chemicals. An outlay of 20,000 crore is proposed over the next 5 years for this purpose. City economic regions. Cities are India's engines of growth, innovation, and opportunities. We shall now focus on Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, and even temple towns, which need modern infrastructure and basic amenities. This budget aims to further amplify the potential of cities to deliver the economic power of agglomerations by mapping city economic regions based on their specific growth drivers. An allocation of 5,000 crore per CER over 5 years is proposed for implementing their plans through a challenge mode with a reform-cum-result-based financing mechanism. In order to promote environmentally sustainable passenger systems, we will develop 7 high-speed rail corridors between cities as growth connectors, namely Mumbai to Pune, Pune to Hyderabad, Hyderabad to Bengaluru, Hyderabad to Chennai, Chennai to Bengaluru, Delhi to Varanasi, Varanasi to Siliguri. Financial sector. The Indian banking sector today is characterized by strong balance sheet, historic highs in profitability, improved asset quality, and coverage exceeding 98% of villages in the country. At this juncture, we are well placed to futuristically evaluate the measures needed to continue on the path of reform-led growth of this sector. I propose setting up a high-level committee on banking for Vikasit Bharat. High-level committee on banking for Vikasit Bharat to comprehensively review the sector and align it with India's next phase of growth, while safeguarding financial stability, inclusion, and consumer protection. The vision for NBFCs for Vikasit Bharat has been outlined with clear targets for credit disbursement and technology adoption in order to achieve scale and improve efficiency in the public sector NBFCs. As a first step, it is proposed to restructure the Power Finance Corporation and Rural Electrification Corporation. I propose a comprehensive review of the foreign exchange management non-debt instruments rules to create a more contemporary, user-friendly framework for foreign investments consistent with India's evolving economic priorities. Corporate bond market. I propose to introduce a market-making framework with suitable access to funds and derivatives on corporate bond indices. I also propose to introduce total return swaps on corporate bonds. Municipal bonds. To encourage the issuance of municipal bonds of higher value by larger cities, I propose an incentive of 100 crore rupees for a single bond issuance. 100 crore rupees for a single bond issuance of more than 1,000 crore. The current scheme under Amrit which incentivizes issuances up to 200 crores only, will also continue to support smaller and medium towns. That will also continue to support the smaller and medium towns. Ease of doing business. Individual persons resident outside India, PROI, will be permitted to invest in equity instruments of listed Indian companies through the Portfolio Investment Scheme. It is also proposed to increase the investment limit for an individual PROI under the scheme from 5% to 10%, with an overall investment limit for all individual PROIs to 24% from the current 10%. Emerging technologies including AI. 21st century is technology-driven. Adoption of technology is for the benefit of all people. Farmers in the field, women in STEM, youth keen to upskill, and Divyangjan to access newer opportunities. The government has taken several steps to support new technologies through AI Mission, National Quantum Mission, Anusandhan National Research Fund, and Research and Development and Innovation Fund. Our second kartavya is to fulfill aspirations and build capacities. Close to 25 crore individuals have come out of multi-dimensional poverty through a decade of our government's sustained and reform-oriented efforts. Our government has therefore decided to place a renewed emphasis on the service sector to provide a pathway to fulfilling aspirations of a youthful India with the following measures. I propose to set up a high-powered Education to Employment and Enterprises Standing Committee to recommend measures that focus on services sector as a core driver of Vikasit Bharat. This will make us a global leader in services with a 10% global share by 2047. The committee will prioritize areas to optimize the potential for growth, employment, and exports. They will also assess the impact of emerging technologies, including AI, on jobs and skill requirements and propose measures thereof. To create a range of skilled career pathways, a new range of skilled career pathways for our youth, I propose interventions in the following sectors. Health. Existing institutions for allied health professionals will be upgraded and new AHP institutions established in private and government sectors. This will cover 10 selected disciplines, including optometry, radiology, anesthesia, OT technology, applied psychology and behavioral health, and add 1 lakh AHPs over the next 5 years. A strong care system covering geriatric and allied care services will be built. A variety of NSQF-aligned programs will be developed to train multi-skilled caregivers, combining core care and allied skills such as wellness, yoga, and operation of medical assistive devices. In the coming year, 1.5 lakh caregivers will be trained. Hubs for medical value tourism. To promote India as a hub for medical tourism services, I propose to launch a scheme to support states in establishing 5 regional medical hubs in partnership with the private sector. These hubs will serve as integrated healthcare complexes that combine medical, educational and research facilities. They will have Ayush centers, medical value tourism facilitation centers, and infrastructure for diagnostics, post-care, and rehabilitation. These hubs will provide diverse opportunities, job opportunities for health professionals, including doctors and AHPs. Ancient Indian yoga, already respected in several parts of the world, was given a mass global recognition when Honorable Prime Minister took it to the UN. Post-COVID, Ayurveda gained a similar global acceptance and recognition. Exporting quality Ayurveda products helps farmers who grow the herbs and youth who process the products. To meet growing global demand, a few more steps are being taken. I propose to, 1, set up 3 new All India Institutes of Ayurveda. 2, upgrade Ayush pharmacies and drug testing labs for higher standards of certification ecosystem and make available more skilled personnel. 3, upgrade the WHO Global Traditional Medicine Center in Jamnagar to bolster evidence-based research, training, and awareness for traditional medicine. Animal husbandry. Livestock contributes to close to 16% of farm income, including of poor and marginal households. To scale up availability of veterinary professionals by more than 20,000, I propose to roll out a loan-linked capital subsidy support scheme for establishment of veterinary and para-veterinary colleges, veterinary hospitals, diagnostic laboratories, and breeding facilities in private sector. Collaboration between Indian and foreign institutions will also be facilitated. Orange economy. India's animation, visual effects, gaming and comics sector, AVGC sector, is a growing industry projected to require 2 million professionals by 2030. I propose to support the Indian Institute of Creative Technologies, Mumbai, in setting up AVGC content creator labs in 15,000 secondary schools all over the country and 500 colleges. The Indian design industry is expanding rapidly, and yet there is a shortage of Indian designers. I propose to establish, through Challenge Route, a new National Institute of Design to boost design education and development in the eastern region of India. Education. Our government will support states through Challenge Route in creating 5 university townships in the vicinity of major industrial and logistics corridors. These planned academic zones will host multiple universities, colleges, and research institutions, skill centers, and residential complexes. In higher education, STEM institutions, prolonged hours of study and laboratory work pose some challenges for girl students. Through VGF, Viability Gap Funding, and capital support, 1 girls' hostel will be established in every district. To promote astrophysics and astronomy via immersive experiences, 4 telescope infrastructure facilities will be set up or upgraded. The National Large Solar Telescope, the National Large Optical Infrared Telescope, the Himalayan Chandra Telescope, and the Cosmos 2 Planetarium. Tourism. The tourism sector has the potential to play a large role in the employment generation, forex earnings, and expanding the local economy. I propose to set up a National Institute of Hospitality by upgrading the existing National Council for Hotel Management and Catering Technology. It will function as a bridge between academia, industry, and government. I also propose a pilot scheme for upskilling 10,000 guides in 20 iconic tourist sites through a standardized, high-quality, 12-week training course in hybrid mode in collaboration with the Indian Institute of Management. A national destination digital knowledge grid will be established to digitally document all places of significance, cultural, spiritual, and heritage. This initiative will create a new ecosystem of jobs for local researchers, historians, content creators, and technology partners. India has the potential and opportunity to offer world-class trekking and hiking experience. We will develop ecologically sustainable mountain trails in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Jammu Kashmir. Also in Araku Valley in the Eastern Ghats and Podigai Malai in the Western Ghats. Turtle trails along key nesting sites in the coastal areas of Odisha, Karnataka, and Kerala. And 3 bird watching trails along the Pulikat Lake in Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. It's on the border. Under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, we established the International Big Cat Alliance in 2024. This year, India is hosting the first ever Global Big Cat Summit, where heads of governments and ministers from 95 range countries will deliberate on collective strategies for conservation. Heritage and culture tourism. I propose to develop 15 archaeological sites, including Lothal, Dolavira, Rakhi Gadi, Adichanallur, Saranath, Hastinapur, and Leh Palace into vibrant experiential cultural destinations. Excavated landscapes will be open to the public through curated walkways. Immersive storytelling skills and technologies will be introduced to help conservation labs, interpretation centers, and guides. The sports sector provides multiple means of employment, skilling, and job opportunities. Taking forward the systematic nurturing of sports talent, which is set in motion through the Khelo India program earlier, I propose to launch a Khelo India mission to transform the sports sector over the next decade. The mission will facilitate an integrated talent development pathway supported by training centers, which are foundational, intermediate, and elite levels. B, systematic development of coaches and support staff. C, integration of sports science and technology. D, competitions and leagues to promote sports culture and provide platforms. And E, development of sports infrastructure for training and competition. Our third Kartavya aligns with our vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas towards Vikasit Bharat. This requires targeted efforts for 1, increasing farmer incomes through productivity enhancement and entrepreneurship, with special attention to small and marginal farmers. B, empowering Divyangjan through access to livelihood opportunities, training, and high-quality assistive devices. C. Empowering the vulnerable to access mental health and trauma care. D. Focus on the Purvodaya states and the Northeast region to accelerate development and employment opportunities. Fisheries. We will undertake initiatives for integrated development of 500 reservoirs and Amrit Sarovars. 2. Strengthen the fisheries value chain in coastal areas and enable market linkages involving startups and women-led groups together with fish farmer producer organizations. Animal husbandry. To provide quality employment opportunities in rural and peri-urban areas, we will support the animal husbandry sector in entrepreneurship development through a credit-linked subsidy program, B. Scaling up and modernization of livestock enterprises, C. Enhanced creation of livestock, dairy and poultry enhanced creation of livestock, dairy and poultry focused integrated value chains, and D. Encourage creation of livestock farmer producer organizations. High value agriculture. To diversify farm outputs, increase productivity, enhance farmers' incomes, and create new employment opportunities, we will support high-value crops such as coconut, sandalwood, cocoa, cashew in the coastal areas, agar trees in northeast, and nuts such as almonds, walnuts, and pine nuts in our hilly regions. These, all of them, will be supported. India is the world's largest producer of coconuts. About 30 million people, including nearly 10 million farmers, depend on coconuts for their livelihood. To further enhance competitiveness in coconut production, I propose a coconut promotion scheme to increase production and enhance productivity through various interventions, including replacing and non-productive trees with new saplings or plants or varieties in major coconut growing states. A dedicated program is proposed for Indian cashew and cocoa to make India self-reliant in raw cashew and coconut production and processing, enhance export competitiveness, and transform Indian cashew and Indian cocoa into premium global brands by 2030. Sandalwood. Sandalwood is closely linked to India's social and cultural heritage. Our government will partner with state governments to promote focused cultivation and post-harvest processing to restore the glory of the Indian sandalwood ecosystem, to rejuvenate old, low-yielding orchards, and expand high-density cultivation of walnuts, almonds, and pine nuts. We will support a dedicated program to enhance farmer incomes and in bringing value addition by engaging youth. Bharat Vistar, that is virtually integrated system to access agricultural resources. I propose to launch Bharat Vistar, a multilingual AI tool that shall integrate the AgriStack portals and the ICAR package on agricultural practices with AI systems. This will enhance farm productivity, enable better decisions for farmers, and reduce risk by providing customized advisory support. She Marts for rural women-led enterprises. Building on the success of Lakpati Didi program, I propose to help women take the next step from credit-linked livelihoods to being owners of enterprises. Self-help entrepreneur, She Marts will be set up as community-owned retail outlets within the cluster-level federations through enhanced and innovative financing instruments. Empowering Divyangjan. Divyangjan Kaushal Yojana, information technology, AVGC sectors, hospitality and food and beverages sectors often offer task-oriented and process-driven roles which are suitable for Divyangjan. We will ensure dignified livelihood opportunities through industry-relevant and customized training specific to each Divyangjan group. Divyang Sahara Yojana, timely access to high-quality assistive devices for all eligible Divyangjan is a fundamental need. I propose to 1. Support the Artificial Limbs Manufacturing Corporation of India, ALIMCO, to set up and to scale up production of assistive devices, invest in R&D and AI integration, strengthen PM Divyasha Kendras, and support setting up of assistive technology marts as modern retail style centers where Divyangjan and senior citizens can see, try and purchase assistive products. Reaffirming our commitment to mental health and trauma care. There are no national institutes for mental health care in North India. We will therefore set up a NIMHANS 2 and also upgrade national mental health institutes in Ranchi and in Tezpur as regional apex institutions. Emergencies expose families, particularly the poor and vulnerable, to unexpected expenditure. We will strengthen and increase these capacities by 50% in district hospitals by establishing emergency and trauma care centers. Focus on Purvodaya states and northeastern regions. Purvodaya, I propose the development of an integrated East Coast industrial corridor with a well-connected node at Durgapur, creation of 5 tourism destinations in 5 Purvodaya states, and the provision of 4,000 e-buses. Buddhist sites in northeastern region. The northeastern region is a civilizational confluence of Theravada and Mahayana or Vajrayana traditions. I propose to launch a scheme for development of Buddhist circuits in Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Assam, Manipur, Mizoram, and Tripura. The scheme will cover preservation of temples and monasteries, pilgrimage interpretation centers, connectivity, and pilgrim amenities. 16th Finance Commission. On 17th November 2025, the 16th Finance Commission submitted its report to the President. As mandated under Article 281 of the Constitution, the government is to lay the report along with the explanatory memorandum on the action taken report on the recommendations of the Commission in Parliament, which, Sir, Honourable Speaker, you've allowed me to do at the commencement of this session. The government has accepted the recommendation of the Commission to retain the vertical share of devolution at 41%. As recommended by the Commission, I have provided 1.4 lakh crores of rupees to the states for the year 2026-2027 as Finance Commission grants. These include rural and urban local body and disaster management grants. Fiscal consolidation. Government has been delivering on our fiscal commitments consistently without compromising on social needs. To strive towards accepted standards of fiscal management in Budget 25-26, I had indicated that the central government would target reaching a debt to GDP ratio of 50 plus or minus 1% by 2030-31. In line with this, The debt to GDP ratio is estimated to be 55.6% of GDP in BE 26-27, compared to 56.1% of GDP in RE 25-26. A declining debt to GDP ratio will gradually free up resources for priority sector lending and expenditure by reducing the outgo on interest payments. One of the main operational instruments for debt targeting is the fiscal deficit. I am happy to inform this august House that I fulfilled my commitment made in 2021-2022 to reduce fiscal deficit below 4.5% of GDP by 25-26. In RE 25-26, the fiscal deficit has been estimated at par with BE of 2025-26 at 4.4% of GDP. In line with the new fiscal prudence path of debt consolidation, the fiscal deficit in BE 26-27 is estimated to be 4.3% of the GDP. The revised estimates of the non-debt receipts are 34 lakh crore rupees, of which the centre's net tax receipts are 26.7 lakh crore. The revised estimate of the total expenditure is 49.6 lakh crore rupees, of which the capital expenditure is about 11 lakh crores. Budget estimates 2026 to 2027. Coming to 26-27, the non-debt receipts and the total expenditure are estimated as 36.5 lakh crore and 53.5 lakh crore respectively. The centre's net tax receipts are estimated at 28.7 lakh crore rupees. To finance the fiscal deficit, the net market borrowings from dated securities are estimated at 11.7 lakh crore rupees. The balance financing is expected to come from small savings and other sources. The gross market borrowings are estimated at 17.2 lakh crore rupees. I'll now move to Part B. Part B, direct taxes. Honorable Speaker, sir, I now present my proposals on direct taxes. New Income Tax Act. In July 2024, I announced a comprehensive review of the Income Tax Act 1961. This was completed in a record time, and the Income Tax Act 2025 will come into effect from 1st April 2026. The simplified income tax rules and forms will be notified shortly, giving adequate time to taxpayers to acquaint themselves with its requirements. The forms have been redesigned such that ordinary citizens can comply without difficulty. Ease of living. I propose that any interest awarded by the Motor Accident Claims Tribunal to a natural person will be exempt from income tax, and any TDS on this account will be done away with. I propose to reduce TCS rate on the sale of overseas tour program package from the current 5% and 20% to 2% without any stipulation of amount. I propose to reduce TCS rate for pursuing education and for medical purposes under the Liberalized Remittance Scheme, popularly known as LRS, from 5% to 2%. Supply of manpower services is proposed to be specifically brought within the ambit of payment to contractors for the purpose of TDS to avoid ambiguity. Thus, TDS on these services will be at the rate of either 1% or 2% only. I propose a scheme for small taxpayers, wherein a rule-based automated process will enable obtaining a lower or nil deduction certificate instead of filing an application with the assessing officer. For the ease of taxpayer holding securities in multiple companies, I propose to enable depositories to accept Form 15G or Form 15H from the investor and provide it directly to various relevant companies. I propose to extend time available for revising returns from 31st December to up to 31st March with the payment of a nominal fee. I also propose to stagger the timeline for filing of tax returns. Individuals with ITR 1 and ITR 2 returns will continue to file till 31st July, and non-audit business cases or trusts are proposed to be allowed time till 31st August. TDS on sale of immovable property by a non-resident is proposed to be deducted and deposited through resident buyers and his or her PAN-based challan instead of requiring a TAN, which is a temporary accounting number. To address practical issues of small taxpayers like students, young professionals, tech employees, relocated NRIs, and such others, I propose to introduce a one-time 6-month foreign asset disclosure scheme for these taxpayers to disclose income or assets below a certain size. This scheme would be applicable for two categories of taxpayers, namely A, who did not disclose their overseas income or assets, and B, who disclosed their overseas income and or paid due tax but could not declare the asset acquired. For category A, the limit of undisclosed income or asset is proposed to be up to 1 crore rupees. They need to pay 30% of fair market value of asset or 30% of undisclosed income as tax and 30% as additional income tax in lieu of penalty, and would thereby get immunity from prosecution. For category B, asset value is proposed to be up to 5 crore rupees. Here, immunity from both penalty and prosecution will be available with a payment of fee of 1 lakh rupees. Rationalizing penalty and prosecution. Multiplicity of proceedings are hindrance to the ease of doing business. I propose to integrate assessment and penalty proceedings by way of a common order for both. There will be no interest liability on the taxpayer on the penalty amount for the period of appeal before the first appellate authority, irrespective of the outcome of appeal process. Further, quantum of prepayment is being reduced from 20% to 10% and will continue to be calculated only on core tax demand. As an additional measure for reducing litigation, I propose to allow taxpayers to update their returns even after reassessment proceedings have been initiated, and an additional 10% tax rate over and above the rate applicable for the relevant year. The assessing officer will then use only this updated return in his proceedings. There is already a framework for immunity from penalty and prosecution in the cases of underreporting. I propose to apply this framework for immunity to misreporting too. However, in such a case, the taxpayer will need to pay 100% of the tax amount as an additional income tax over and above the tax and interest due. Penalties for certain technical defaults, such as failure to get accounts audited, non-furnishing of transfer pricing audit report, and default in furnishing statement for financial transactions are proposed to be converted into fee. I propose to rationalize prosecution framework under Income Tax Act while maintaining a careful balance for deterrence in some serious offence. Non-production of books of account and documents and requirement of TDS payment where payment is made in kind are being decriminalized. Further, minor offences will attract fine only. The remaining prosecutions will be graded commensurate with the quantum of offence. They will entail only simple imprisonment with maximum imprisonment reduced to 2 years and power to courts to convert even those into fines. There is no penalty. There is no penalty presently for non-disclosure of non-immovable foreign assets with aggregate value less than 20 lakh rupees. I propose to also provide them with immunity from prosecution with retrospective effect from 1/10/2024. Cooperatives. Deduction is already allowed to a primary cooperative society engaged in supplying milk, oilseeds, fruits or vegetables raised or grown by its members. I propose to extend this deduction to also include supply of cattle feed and cotton seed produced by its members. I propose to allow inter-cooperative society dividend income as deduction under the new tax regime to the extent it is further distributed to its members. I further propose to allow exemption for a period of 3 years to dividend income received by a notified national cooperative federation on their investments made in companies up to 31/1/2026. This exemption would be allowed only for dividends further distributed to its member cooperatives. Supporting IT sector as India's growth engine. India is a global leader in software development services, IT-enabled services, knowledge process outsourcing services, and contract R&D services relating to software development. These businesses and their segments are quite interconnected with each other. All these services are proposed to be clubbed under a single category of information technology services with a common safe harbor margin of 15.5% applicable to all. The threshold for availing safe harbor for IT services is being enhanced substantially from 300 crore rupees to 2,000 crore rupees. Safe harbor for IT services shall be approved by an automated rule-driven process without any need for tax officer to examine and accept the application. Once applied by an IT services company, the same safe harbor can be continued for a period of 5 years at a stretch at its choice. For IT services companies who want to conclude advanced pricing agreement, APA, I propose to fast-track unilateral APA process for IT services and endeavor to conclude it within a period of 2 years. The period of 2 years can be extended by a further period of 6 months on taxpayers' request. I propose to extend the facility of modified returns available to the entity entering APA to its associated entities also. Attracting global business and investment. Recognizing the need to enable critical infrastructure and boost investment in data centers, I propose to provide tax holiday till 2047 to any foreign company that provides cloud services to customers globally by using data center services from India. It will, however, need to provide services to Indian customers through an Indian reseller entity. I also propose to provide a safe harbor of 15% on cost in case the company providing data center services from India is a related entity. To harness the efficiency of just-in-time logistics for electronic manufacturing. I propose to provide safe harbor to non-residents for component warehousing in a bonded warehouse at a profit margin of 2% of the invoice value. The resultant tax of about 0.7% will be much slower than in competing jurisdictions. To provide fillip to toll manufacturing in India, I propose to provide exemption from income tax for 5 years to any non-resident who provides capital goods, equipment, or tooling to any toll manufacturer in a bonded zone. To encourage vast pool of global talent to work in India for a longer period of time, I propose to provide exemption to global, non-India sourced income of a non-resident expert for a stay period of 5 years under notified schemes. I propose to provide exemption from minimum alternate tax, the MAT, to all non-residents who pay tax on presumptive basis. Tax administration. I propose to constitute a joint committee of Ministry of Corporate Affairs and Central Board of Direct Taxes for incorporating the requirements of income computation and disclosure standards, the ICDS, in the Indian Accounting Standards, Ind AS itself. Separate accounting requirement based on ICDS will be done away with from the tax year 27-28. To support Prime Minister Modi's vision of homegrown accounting and advisory firms to become global leaders, I propose to rationalize the definition of accountant for the purposes of safe harbor rules. Other tax proposals. Change in taxation of buyback was brought in to address the improper use of buyback route by promoters. In the interest of minority shareholders, I propose to tax buyback for all types of shareholders as capital gains. However, to disincentivize misuse of tax arbitrage, promoters will pay an additional buyback tax. This will make effective tax 22% for corporate promoters. For non-corporate promoters, the effective tax will be 30%. TCS rate for sellers of specific goods, namely alcoholic liquor, scrap, and minerals, will be rationalized to 2%, and that on tendu leaves will be reduced from 5% to 2%. I propose to raise the STT on futures to 0.05% from the present 0.02%. STT on options premium and exercise of options are both proposed to be raised to 0.15% from the present rate of 0.1% and 0.125% respectively. We reformed the taxation landscape for corporates in 2019 by providing them a simplified regime with lower tax rate so that they could productively focus on business rather than on claim of deductions and exemptions. To encourage companies to shift to the new regime, set off of brought forward MAT credit, minimum alternate tax credit, is proposed to be allowed to companies only in the new regime. Set off using available MAT credit is proposed to be allowed to an extent of 1/4 of the tax liability in the new regime. MAT is proposed to be made final tax, so there will be no further credit accumulation from 1st April 2026. In line with this change, the rate of final tax is being reduced to 14% from the current MAT rate of 15%. the brought forward VAT credit of taxpayers accumulated till 30th March 2026 will continue to be available to them for set-off as above. Indirect taxes. I shall now take up proposals related to indirect taxes. My proposals for customs and central excise aim to further simplify the tariff structure, support domestic manufacturing, promote export competitiveness, and correct inversion in duty. To continue weeding out long-continuing customs duty exemptions, I propose to remove certain exemptions on items which are being manufactured in India or where the imports are negligible. Similarly, to further simplify the process of ascertaining the rate of duty applicable on a particular item, I propose to incorporate certain effective rates in various customs notifications to the tariff schedule itself. I shall now take up sector-specific proposals. Promotion of exports of marine, leather, and textile products. I propose to increase the limit for duty-free imports of specified inputs used for processing seafoods for export from the current 1% to 3% of FOB value of the previous year's export turnover. I also propose to allow duty-free imports of specified inputs, which is currently available for exports of leather or synthetic footwear, to exports of shoe uppers as well. I propose to extend the time period for export of final product from the existing 6 months to 1 year for exporters of leather or textile garments, leather or synthetic footwear, and other leather products. Energy transition and security. I propose to extend the basic customs duty exemption given to capital goods used for manufacturing lithium-ion cells for batteries to those used for manufacturing lithium-ion cells for battery energy storage systems also. I propose to exempt basic customs duty on import of sodium antimonate for use in manufacture of solar glass. Nuclear power. I propose to extend the existing basic customs duty exemption on imports of goods required for nuclear power projects till the year 2035 and expand it for all nuclear plants irrespective of their capacity. Critical minerals. It is proposed to provide basic customs duty exemption to the import of capital goods required for the processing of critical minerals in India. Biogas blended CNG. I propose to exclude the entire value of biogas while calculating the central excise duty payable on biogas blended CNG. Civil and defense aviation. I propose to exempt basic customs duty on components and parts required for the manufacture of civilian training and other aircrafts. It is proposed to exempt basic customs duty on raw materials imported for the manufacture of parts of aircraft to be used in maintenance, repair, or overall requirements by units in the defense sector. Electronics. To deepen value addition in the consumer electronics sector, I propose to exempt basic customs duty on specified parts used in the manufacture of microwave ovens. Special economic zone. To address the concerns arising about utilization of capacity by manufacturing units in the special economic zones due to global trade disruptions, I propose as a special one-time measure to facilitate sales by eligible manufacturing units in SEZs to the domestic tariff area at concessional rates of duty. The quantity of such sales will be limited to a prescribed proportion of their exports. Necessary regulatory changes will be undertaken to operationalize the measures while ensuring level playing field for the units working in the DTA. Ease of living. To rationalize the customs duty structure for goods imported for personal use, I propose to reduce the tariff rate on all dutiable goods imported for personal use from 20% to 10%. To provide relief to patients, particularly those suffering from cancer, I propose to exempt basic customs duty on 17 drugs or medicines. I propose also to add 7 more rare diseases for the purposes of exempting import duties on personal imports of drugs, medicines, and food for special medical purposes used in their treatment. Customs process. India's role and share in the global trade is poised for a major leap in line with our ambition and journey towards Vikasit Bharat. In this regard, I propose many measures for custom processes to have minimal intervention for smoother and faster movement of goods and greater certainty to the trade. Trust-based systems. I propose to enhance duty deferral period for Tier 2 and Tier 3 authorized economic operators, known as AEOs, from 15 days to 30 days. I propose to provide eligible manufacturer importers the same duty deferral facility. This should encourage them to get themselves accredited as a full-fledged Tier 3 AEO in due course. To provide greater certainty and for better business planning, I propose to extend validity period of advance ruling binding on customs from the present 3 years to 5 years. In the spirit of the whole of government approach, government agencies will be encouraged to leverage AEO accreditation for preferential treatment in clearing their cargo. Regular importers with trusted long-standing supply chains will be recognized in the risk system so that the need for verification of their cargo every time can be minimized. Export cargo using electronic sealing. Export cargo using electronic sealing will be provided through clearance from the factory premises to the ship. For import of goods not needing any compliance, filing of bill of entry by a trusted importer and arrival of goods will automatically notify customs for completing their clearance formalities. This will enable goods to be released immediately on arrival. The customs warehouse framework will be transformed into a warehouse operator-centric system with a self-declarations, electronic tracking, and risk-based audit. These reforms will move away from the current system of officer-dependent approvals and reduce transaction delays and compliance costs. Ease of doing business. Approvals required for cargo clearance from various government agencies will be seamlessly processed through a single and interconnected digital window by the end of the financial year. Processes involved in clearance of food, drugs, plant, and animal and wildlife products, accounting for about 70% of interdicted cargo, will be operationalized on this system by April 2026 itself. For goods not having any compliance requirement, clearance will be done by customs immediately after online registration is completed by the importer, subject to the payment of duty. Customs integrated system will be rolled out in 2 years as a single integrated and scalable platform for all customs processes. Utilization of non-intrusive scanning with advanced imaging and AI technology for risk assessment will be expanded in a phased manner with the objective to scan every container across all the major ports. New export opportunities to support Indian fishermen to fully harness the economic value of marine resources beyond our territorial waters. The following measures will be taken. A. Fish catch by an Indian fishing vessel in exclusive economic zone or on the high seas will be made free of duty. Landing of such fish on foreign port will be treated as export of goods. Safeguards will be put in place to prevent misuse during fish catch, transit, or transshipment. To support aspirations of India's small businesses, artisans, and startups to access global markets through e-commerce, I am pleased to announce complete removal of the current value cap of 10 lakh rupees per consignment on courier exports. In addition, handling of rejected and returned consignments will be improved with effective use of technology for identifying such consignments. I propose to revise provisions governing baggage clearance during international travel to address genuine concerns of passengers. The revised rules will enhance duty-free allowances in line with the present-day travel realities and provide clarity in temporary carriage of goods brought in or taken out. There are honest taxpayers who are willing to settle disputes by paying all their dues, but they get deterred due to negative connotation associated with penalty. They will now be able to close cases by paying an additional amount in lieu of penalty. Honorable Speaker, sir, with this, I commend the budget to this august House. Jai Hind. One and a half hours.
Item number 3, माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी.
Item number 2, sir.
3.
Sir, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table of the following statements under Section 3, 1 of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act of 2003. Medium-term fiscal policy, fiscal policy strategy statement, and macroeconomic framework statement.
Item number 4, माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी.
Sir, with your permission, I move for leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2026.
प्रश्न ये कि विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करने की अनुमति प्रदान की जाए. जो सदस्य इस पक्ष में हाँ गए, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना गए, मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में, हाँ वालों के पक्ष में अनुमति प्रदान की जाती है. माननीय मंत्री जी, अब विधेयक पूरे स्थापित करें.
Sir, I introduce the bill.
माननीय सदस्यगण, आपको सूचित किया जाता है कि माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी के बजट भाषण की कॉपी पब्लिकेशन काउंटर पर ली जाती है. बजट भाषण और बजट से संबंधित दस्तावेज आपके मोबाइल फोन और मेंबर पोर्टल्स पर ही उपलब्ध है. सभा की कार्रवाई कल सोमवार दिनांक 2 फरवरी 2026 को प्राप्त 11 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's 9th budget, a shorter speech than it has been at some times in the past, less than 90 minutes. And the focus clearly in part A was on a vision statement, words like skilling and innovation dominating that, and then looking at customs duty rationalization in specific sectors, offering various SOPs and benefits potentially to NRIs who wish to invest in India, or foreign companies who wish to invest in specific areas like cloud services, for example. But as you can see, the markets have reacted rather badly to the fact that there is a higher security transaction tax. Markets, BSE, Sensex, in fact, is down by more than 1,000 points. So the markets clearly haven't responded positively to that higher security transaction tax. But let's get in first comments from across the table. Shankar, your first reactions.
I think the budget was split into three parts. One was basically the opening where a lot of the gaps. So I will call this a fill in the blanks budget. So you fill in the gaps in the areas where the domestic economy can be promoted. Fill in the gaps in the areas where probably you might get some foreign exchange, so all the NRI and data center tax holiday and stuff. And the third part is basically in the ease of processes. So income tax rules, customs rule and all. Having said that, I mean, this was far too much minutiae. Somebody should do a word map on how many acronyms are there in the budget, and made me feel like I was listening to a Pranab Mukherjee budget.
First reactions, Dr. Baru.
You know, this is very much in line with Nirmala Sitharaman's 8 budgets so far, which is all about specificities. The big picture clouded by too much detail, because I think the approach of this government has been to show every single segment of society and the economy that we have done something for you. So there are all these 1,000 crores there, 1,000 crores there, 10,000 crores here, 2,000 crores here. The spending divided into so many sectors. You don't get an idea of what is the total amount being spent. Normally, budgets in the past would tell you this is the additional demand we are injecting into the economy. This is the total expenditure of the government in coming financial year. So you don't get a big picture view of what is being done in terms of initiatives. And on the customs, again, the old world, we used to have these sector-specific exemptions, too many sector-specific things. If only the finance minister could have said that the average tariff level is being brought down from X to Y. Calculating all these concessions, what is it? Has India become more open in terms of the tariffs, or are we still where we were? Those kind of messages are important for the economy to understand, where is the expenditure going, how much demand can be injected as a result of all these initiatives, and how much openness is there. We don't get a big picture view at all.
I had a friend who just sent me a message saying she should be called Tinker Raman.
Absolutely. So that's
what she's done today.
We are tinkering here.
Rajiv, you want a quick comment? Your first comment?
So I think few encouraging things that I found very important were the emphasis on high-speed railways across the 7 city hubs identified. I think that's a really good step. Then, of course, the expanded budget for the India Semiconductor Mission, the biopharmaceuticals focus. I think all of that is excellent stuff.
Punita.
So while it is very difficult to analyze these consequences of all these little initiatives on the tax side, and that will take a lot of time to do that, at the very high level, based on the speech, I think it's more like going back to the grassroots. Some of these initiatives are very focused, like tourism, medical tourism.
You're setting up rare earth corridors. You're looking at specific areas as well.
Yes, and then Buddhism, promoting Buddhism and cultural centers, education in underserved tier 2, tier 3 cities. It will help employment, because in these areas, even simple thing like tourism can generate a lot of revenues, a lot of employment, and some countries just live on that. So if we do this properly and do, whether it's medical tourism or regular tourism or cultural tourism, and then along with that, she's also talked about innovation in semiconductors and biopharma and a little bit on AI. So I think all of those
She tried to touch all the buttons. And sometimes when you touch, there is one view that you should have been more selective, touch 5 or 6 core areas. But she's tried to touch the whole gamut of areas.
But did you notice she didn't touch the defense button, which we were talking about?
No, she didn't even talk about it at all.
No, absolutely.
She sort of stayed away from that. But the sense is the markets have reacted very negatively because of the security transaction tax, which is a minor up, but presumably the markets didn't want any of these taxes to be touched at all.
No, this is an expectation story. Basically, they expected that somehow the FIIs will be wooed back, or somehow the LTCG might be changed.
Yeah, markets wanted, of course, they didn't want capital gains and STT,
so
and
no
instead we've got an
lollipop,
increase in STT, so that was a shock. But I think they've given nothing for FIIs, but they have done something for NRIs. So NRIs have been given a lot of tax incentives. Now, whether NRIs will start coming to India more and doing it, I hope they will. But then, you know, they are stuck with this 120-day limit. They can't even spend more than 120
I don't
days
recall when last, during the budget itself, the market has slid by 1,000 points. That's a long time since that's happened.
Market is also much higher now.
You know, but during the budget itself,
1.5% slide.
No, we are going back 20 odd years. We are going back 20. No, during the budget, market sliding by 1,000 points, more than 1,000 points, is about 20 years ago. When, if you recall, that was the first budget of the UPA run with the left, and then A.B. Bardhan famously
But 20 years
said,
ago, the index level was also much lower, right?
Sure, but even so, a 1,000-point drop is a substantial drop today, while the budget speech is on. Clearly, the markets had expected that the STT would not be touched. And the fact that it's been touched has led to some kind of confidence lapse. Siddharth Zarabi also will join us in a moment. My colleague Maria Shakil is with us. We'll get reactions both from government and opposition in a moment. Rajiv Gowda is national spokesperson of the Congress. He heads their research cell. Mr. Gowda, you've been a critic of this government. Tell us very honestly, objectively, the best thing about the budget and what you didn't like. I want an honest answer.
I only give honest answers, Rajdeep.
No, our politicians don't. There must be something. First, tell me what's the good thing about the budget.
Good thing is the two enhancements that they're going to implement in different parts of the country. Mental health and is a domain that really needs addressing. So there's a first step in that direction. Now, just let me turn to focusing on my job, which is to point out what all is wrong. The markets are collapsing there because not just one particular feature of the increase in the tax for the transaction. The basic point is that this was a crisis budget, right? We are facing a crisis in terms of foreign confidence and investment. And so what you need to do is to revive multiple dimensions of the Indian economy. Now, for all the talk about these three kartavyas, etc., just take what is being done for youth. Is whatever initiative that she announced here today actually going to create jobs? What has been the track record so far? What happened to agriculture? What happened to defense? How come any of these massive, crucial domains have actually been ignored in this very long, but not longest speech? So these are the sorts of questions that come up right away and say, what's, this government...
I'm just taking short reaction.
Using the budget as an announcement platform, but look at the track record and just see whether any of these have actually translated into any outcome.
Okay. Siddharth Zarabi joins us. Siddharth, your first reactions, particularly as I told Shankar, I don't recall last, when during the budget speech the market takes such a sharp dip. Is it just the STT which has spooked the market?
Well, there have been instances of significant dips, including when the
more than 1,000 points, maybe retrospective tax last.
Bases were last, but I recall Pranab Mukherjee's retrospective amendment budget. But the broad point that you were making, Rajdeep, about why, it's a very simple why the securities transaction tax has been hiked. You can talk about the quantum, but its impact is coming at a time when people were looking for some relief from a stock market perspective, essentially on account of the fact that the markets have been negative for quite some time, have taken a beating on account of various external factors. So the comparison in the mind of market makers and market players is that instead of addressing that trend, they are taking this as an absolute negative that you have gone ahead and hiked on futures and options. But why is this? It's very clear on a directional basis, Rajdeep, not now, but for several years, that the government, fiscal authority believes that as far as this aspect of our economy is concerned, there should not be unnecessary speculation. And that is why this strings together. Now, individual packs, for example, if you were to look at the defense pack of stocks, these are taking a hit on account of, again, this build-up of anticipation that there would be an Operation Sindoor impact. And that is why you are seeing the kind of negative, the Sensex down 1.2%, the Nifty down 1.37% as we speak.
Okay, let's bring in Rajan Navani now. Mr. Nawani, how are you looking at the numbers right now? I mean, of course, the stock market has given a huge thumbs down, but the larger question is that how will you describe this budget? Will you be saying, of course, we did not hear any big bang announcements like we saw in 2025. Is this the budget of consolidation then?
Yes, I think exactly that. Budgets normally shape balance sheets for a year, but I think this growth-focused budgets, actually shape a nation's future for decades. And I think this is aligned to the Viksit Bharat 2047 vision of the government, which not only deepens, I think, Bharat's internal economic strength through inclusivity, but at the same time ensuring how India can continue to march on the global stage, leveraging technology, the creative young power that India has. And I think multiple aspects of that in some shape and form have been addressed in the budget. We represent India's pioneering platform in the orange economy. And, this was the first time that has been discussed, which is actually the creative industries in India generating livelihoods, which will not only, come in the time of AI and new technologies, but, shape different aspects as we go ahead. Also, as a board member of the IICT, seeing an additional commitment to creating, 15,000 content centers in schools and in colleges is a big push to get the next generation of livelihood creation, in place, right? A big job of the government is to create jobs. I think we are seeing a big shift due to technology and how jobs will play out in the future. And I think this budget addresses largely that new emerging Bharat young component, not only positioning itself for India, but globally, and now moving really from a content creation to an IP.
Yes, many see this as perhaps the government of India still not ready for the big AI leap of faith that we have seen, say, in having been taken by United States or China. India is still to catch up. Is there a sense also from this budget that, yes, as far as data centers are concerned, that is going up, but still a long march for India to catch up with what has been achieved by China and US already?
Sure. You think of AI, AI has multiple layers, right? I think there are base infrastructure. And I think this budget has clearly said India is going to be a global cloud player, for the world, because that's where the data resides. Giving clarity on tax things until 2047 is, I think, pretty innovative, never heard before in India. So, that was my original point, right? That this budget really talks about a longer term view and also explains, stock markets today look at short term, like what we are saying, higher securities tax and react immediately. But when you think of a long term foundational building base for Indian industry, the Indian economy with the next generation of consumers, the young people who are not only going to consume, but also going to be the world's largest employees, and no country better than India to unlock that potential. So I think if done right, India can ride the journey very well.
Let's look at specifically the tax holiday till 2047 for foreign companies that provide cloud services to India, but we'll get some live reactions that are coming in. Let's listen into some of them.
Rare earth mineral और कैपेक्स बढ़ा दिया है इस ओवरऑल इसको किस तरह देखते हैं एक्सपोर्ट को लेके भी काफी फोकस है
एक्सपोर्ट पे फोकस है रेयर अर्थ पे फोकस है कैपेक्स भी 1 लाख करोड़ से बढ़ाया है तो वो भी बड़ा अच्छा है क्योंकि पहले भी अगर आप पहले से देखें तो 11 लाख करोड़ भी बहुत नंबर था अगर आप 4 साल पहले से देखें तो ऑलमोस्ट डबल कर दिया तो इस बार और 10-12% से बढ़ाया है
थैंक यू
सर हाउ डू यू लुक एट द
Siddharth, tax holiday till 2047 to foreign companies that provide cloud services to India, that work with Indian companies, importantly, is a major boost. Do you see that having a... let me also look at semiconductors, for example. Again, the government is promising and committing to a huge push in semiconductors. So specific sectors which potentially over the next 20 years could drive the economy forward are being looked at on a positive side.
Rajdeep, let's take the tax basket, and maybe this was already responded to by our guests here, so allow me repetition. If minus the STT hike that has spooked the markets, and you could also say that in terms of buybacks being brought in under the net, those are fine. If you look at it, there are a lot of specific tax reform measures which take away pain points that exist. On the customs side...
Give me an example.
Plenty of them. For example, you have you have a reduced TCS rate under the liberalized remittance scheme. This helps those for education fees, those who are paying, or for medical purposes. You will you have taken specific measures as far as NRIs are concerned. A new foreign asset disclosure scheme. It's allowing people to pay up in one go and get rid of the fear of a legal overhang. Decriminalization of non-production of books of accounts or certain disclosures. These are minutiae. It may not be a headline grabbing, but I just want to take up 3 numbers which to me are the most significant, which talk about how this government has remained on the path over multiple years. One is the fiscal roadmap and the numbers, the shift to debt to GDP. By next year, we will be able to have a comparative figure. The second is the capex hike. This is again very clear that physical infrastructure along with digital and new age sectors like semiconductors that you spoke about, Rajdeep, remain a priority. And I wonder if it's been discussed, but the 16th Finance Commission report has recommended 41% devolution. That 41% devolution was prevailing for the previous 5 years. That has been continued. So that part of the political economy, especially with regard to resource availability for states, being taken care of. I would say the broad macro numbers and staying on the path, no shocks, no surprises, and obviously the fiscal deficit couldn't have become 3%.
Yeah, go ahead.
Keeping up the capital expenditure.
Keeping up the capital expenditure
over
second.
12 trillion rupees.
And cleaning up the house with regard to certain tax and definitely for customs. These are the 3 broad pillars. Now, allocations for schemes. I must say that those are headline numbers. It takes time for the economy to absorb them. Several of them spill over into multi-year implementation. So for the moment, we can look beyond those numbers as well.
Given the capex numbers that you all just spoke about, let's go to Vinayak Chatterjee, Chairman, CII, National Committee on PPP in Infrastructure, Founder and Managing Trustee, the InfraVision Foundation. Your first reactions, Mr. Chatterjee, also joined by Vivek Bhatia, MD and CEO, TKIL Industries. But first you, Mr. Chatterjee.
Thank you, thank you. I will restrict my comments to my pay grade, which relates to the infrastructure sector. In this budget, I have found 2 major dominant themes in infrastructure. One is a very significant focus on urban infrastructure, and the next is a bit of a transformational agenda, which is 7 new high-speed rail corridors. These are the 2 major dominant themes, and there are 4 sub-themes which find an impactful presence in the budget. One is with regard to the entire focus on social infrastructure, medical tourism, university townships, archaeological sites, sports training institutes, and tourism circuits. The second is coastal and inland waterways. The third is financial restructuring, REITs for unlocking land, monetizing land of CPSEs, Infra Risk Guarantee Fund, restructuring of PFC and REC and municipal bonds. And the fourth is the fair amount of tax incentives being given for data centers, nuclear, biogas, and aircraft, MRO, and manufacturing
Mr.
parts.
Chatterjee,
so these are my broad takes on this budget. Yep.
Yes. One of the highlights is of setting up of Infrastructure Risk Guarantee Fund. What will it really entail?
Yes.
Infrastructure Risk Guarantee Fund.
Well, we have to see the fine print, but it says, yes, it is. The FM clarified that this was for lenders. So I suspect for financial institutions lending to infrastructure projects, if there are difficulties, then this Infrastructure Risk Guarantee Fund will mitigate part of the pain. But we have to wait to see exactly what this means in terms when we see the fine print.
NPA insurance.
Sorry,
Infra NPA insurance.
It's basically a form of infra NPA insurance because the distance between the project, the realization of the funds. Now, if you see a large number, and Vinayak might know the details, a large number of projects have yet to be paid by central and state governments, which makes it difficult for the companies executing the projects to repay money to the banks. So this kind of risk guarantee will prevent them to be pushed into NCLT or to insolvency courts. And maybe I hope that they will clarify that this is not some kind of, lend to whoever you want and then sort of encash.
you know, the fact is that this budget
It's an NPA, so
yeah, but
broadly
this
you can
budget
think
was
of NPA
against
insurance.
this budget was against the backdrop of these geopolitical headwinds, which even the economic survey has spoken about. And I will come to my guest to find out what specifically does this do to allay those concerns, those fears. How much really could the budget also have done in terms of allaying what is really not in your hand, what is done across the world. But Vivek Bhatia, MD and CEO, TKIL Industries, is there a sense that the government has given a broad vision for where industry goes? We've been discussing this time and again. Private investment is lower than it was pre-2019. What has this budget done to get back that investor confidence? Specific sectors have been targeted, but is there a big picture that emerges?
Well, that's a very good question, Rajdeep. If I look at how the finance minister started her speech today, she spoke about three kartavyas. And the first one she said is about growth, but growth not driven by the brute force of capital, but rather focusing on productivity and competitiveness. The second one that she emphasized was, talking about aspirations and making sure that different parts of the economy, from a citizen perspective, their aspirations are addressed. And third, I think the inclusiveness that she wanted to bring about in terms of covering various parts of the economy. So I think philosophically, if I look at, these three objectives and what she has tried to cover, it's really a broad set of strokes with which she has tried to do different things in various pockets of the economy. Having said that, I think if we look at this from a numbers point of view, I think to have fiscal deficit going down from 4.4 to 4.3, and at the same time to have an improvement in overall infrastructure spending, I think it's a fine balancing act. But she has really put money in the right spaces and in the right areas, which is very relevant given the current macroeconomic environment, geopolitical environment that we see today. And what I really liked was, apart from the areas that Vinayak mentioned, which are extremely relevant and promising, I would say I really liked that, she carved out 20,000 crores for carbon capture, focusing on core sectors. And, when we look at the kind of FTAs that we are signing, I think making the Indian economy green, the Indian products greener, would be vital for greater market access in the coming days and years for the Indian economy. So I think that's really positioning us in the right way for those sectors. And then also in some simple ways, I think without...
Sorry, Vivek, I just want to get as many views as possible. Vinayak, very quickly, there was a sense that, as I said, this was an opportunity in the adversity of global headwinds to send out a strong signal that India means business, ease of doing business. Those have been mantras in recent times. Speed of doing business is the new mantra. Do you believe that this budget gives that kind of incentive to industry to recognize that the government is with them? Siddharth just mentioned that there are a few exemptions that are being given, for example, to NRIs to invest in India. But overall, do you see it increasing our manufacturing competitiveness and actually giving us some kind of a direction when it comes to these, to taking on the world in these times of global headwinds?
The answer lies, it's easy to give a macro answer, sweeping answer. But I think to answer your question credibly is to see the level of micro detail that the FM has gone into to actually provide a sense of relief to many, many sectors in terms, not just relief, but to provide encouragement to stand up and fight the global headwinds that are blowing. I mean, she has gone from construction equipment to chemicals to rare earths to biopharma, semiconductors, electronics, container manufacturing, natural fiber, textiles, handlooms, the special dispensation for SEZ, sports goods. So what I would say is, compared to other budgets, she has, instead of making general statements, she has specifically gone to a plethora of industries to say, we are standing by you. And I think it sends a very strong message over and above the various tax concessions and incentives.
Sure, there are two views of that. Someone here suggested Pranab Mukherjee kind of budget, Tinker Raman. Others are saying Focus Raman. So Dr. Baru, your reaction was there's too much of detailing, micro detailing. Here you've got Vinayak Chatterjee saying actually that's a strength. You're giving specifics for specific industries.
No, you can give specific for specific industries. But the purpose of an annual financial statement of the government is to tell the economy what is the extra demand being injected through budgetary initiatives. We talk of a fiscal deficit of 4.3%. What is the total expenditure this year going to be? And what is the total revenue mobilization going to be? Every single budget in the past would end with a statement. This is the additional expenditure. When you give 10 different items, where you're 10,000 here, 10,000 there, 10,000 there, what does it add up to?
Okay, let me put a specific, since you said specific, tax reforms to boost manufacturing sector. Exemption from income tax for 5 years to non-residents providing capital goods, equipment for tooling to any toll manufacturer in a bonded zone. Provision of safe harbor to non-residents for component warehousing in a bonded warehouse. Deferred duty payment window to trusted manufacturers. Increase the limit for duty-free imports of specific inputs used for processing seafood products for export. Duty-free imports of specific inputs extended to export of shoe uppers, that's in the leather industry. Extension of time for export of final product for exporters of leather or textile garments. Basic custom duties for manufacture of microwave ovens, basic custom duty exemptions for those in aircraft manufacturing. We've also looked at, you can also look at nuclear power specific areas, a special one-time measure to facilitate sale in domestic tariff area of duty by eligible manufacturing units of SEZs. So she will say...
What does it all add up to?
It all adds up to trying to use this to ensure ease of doing business for specific sectors.
But does it make the economy more open?
No. Manufacturing sector has been a matter of concern. These are efforts being made, when one would say.
So has the demand dying, and now you're again coming up with some regulation to incentivize industry through kind of SEZ.
I mean, she's specifically giving you tax reforms for specific sectors.
The big story here is the government of India will spend 1 lakh crore more.
Higher capital expenditure.
Capital thing. The total expenditure is... Total expenditure...
25% of the budget is, I think, on capex now.
Yeah, and the total expenditure is roughly gone up by that much. Yeah. So you have last year's economic conditions with a higher, marginally, incrementally higher expenditure. What the budget sort of the lost in detail story is that there are specific areas which sort of they're creating the roads, like the high-speed rail corridor. But there's no allocation, you don't know where it's going.
That's the point.
So whether it will be funded by public or PPP or the Japanese, we don't know.
But we know from experience, Dr. Baru.
At least I think there's an intent put out that 7 more high-speed rail is coming out.
Let's also look at it from a different perspective. If you take the last 11-year period, capital expenditure budget has gone up 6 times. It was 2 lakh crore then, it is now 12.2 lakh crore. And if you look at defense modernization, because Shankar, we have the numbers now, the defense modernization allocation this year is 2.2 lakh crore. So as the details filter in, it seems that the intent that has been followed for several years of a capex push along with other measures continues very clearly with the numbers.
The best part of the budget...
demand is not picking up. I mean, we began this discussion by saying that the big challenge is stagnant private corporate investment and stagnant demand.
Productivity gains.
Okay, so let's listen into some reactions which have come in. These are political reactions coming in from Parliament.
हम जो इंतजार कर रहे थे मेरे केरला में हम कुछ नहीं सुन पाए एक टर्टल ट्रेल के बारे में सुना उसके अलावा और रेयर अर्थ्स मैं भी कुछ समय से कह रहा था लेकिन उसके अलावा केरला के लिए कुछ नहीं सुनाई दिया एक ऑल इंडिया इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मेडिकल साइंस 15 साल से इंतजार कर रहे हैं कोई अनाउंसमेंट नहीं था ऑल इंडिया इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ आयुर्वेदा की अनाउंसमेंट किया लेकिन नहीं बताया कि कहाँ क्यों नहीं केरला में बताना चाहिए था कोई जामनगर के बारे में कुछ बोला लेकिन केरला के बारे में
हम लोग का पहला रिएक्शन सीआई का काफ़ी पॉजिटिव है बजट के बारे में और बजट जो हम लोग की जो इंडस्ट्री की मांग थी वो काफ़ी हद तक पूरी करता है, और जो खासकर रिफॉर्म्स में कई सेक्टर्स को फोकस करना, एमएसएमईज को फोकस करना, सर्विसेज में भी नया फोकस उन्होंने दिया है, और हर एक सोसाइटी के हर एक वर्ग को अलग अलग भागों में कर उनके लिए क्या कर रहे हैं वो भी काफ़ी अच्छा था। और टैक्स में कई जो चीज़ें थी जो पहले से जो कई चीज़ें जो रेस करी जा रही थी सिंप्लीफिकेशन के लिए, वो भी उन्होंने काफ़ी हद तक सॉल्व किया।
Okay, as you can see, these are early reactions, and often the devil or the benefits in a budget lie in the details. And until those details start coming out, it would be premature to make the kind of statements like I just heard from Shashi Tharoor कि हमको कुछ turtle के लिए दिया गया है. If you look at it, there are also other areas which could benefit Kerala when it comes, for example, cashew and specific. You see, it almost seems as if a finance minister is in a zero-sum game. If she goes into specifics, people say she's tinkering. If she gives the broad sweep, people say that she's generalizing. The direction clearly has been given of continuity. Am I correct to use that word, Siddharth? That she has effectively gone on the path of continuity where she's been doing the budgets over. Yes, Punita.
So I would say that your question earlier, then have we addressed what is happening geopolitically?
Yes.
I don't think the budget addresses that directly.
What could she have done?
Well, first of all, no increase in big defense spending. I mean, given the situation that we face with our neighbors, that's a very geopolitically stressed situation. So we've not addressed that. But what we have addressed through multiple different ways is strengthening the domestic supply chains by giving some relief to lots of little MSMEs and, as I said, you know, tier 2, tier 3 cities development, etc. So it's back to like being more insular and focusing more on the domestic economy rather than focusing on the global economy. There's very little here that will help us
Rajdeep, in
globally.
terms of the politics of budget, we often focus on that. Last year, there were some announcements that were made keeping in mind particularly the alliance partners for Andhra Pradesh and also for Bihar. Bihar was poll-bound. Now, we haven't seen any such big announcement with regards to Tamil Nadu or Bengal. These are the two states where the BJP is very keen on expanding its footprints. So, the politics of the budget is something that we'll have to wait and see.
No,
there were a few.
Not specifics.
For Kerala, if
yes.
you could see, there was an attempt being made to reach out to specific
No, it was there. The colors were all there. Kerala had stuff. Tamil Nadu had stuff.
Eastern region. She spoke of Eastern region.
No, Andhra Pradesh had it because of the
Hyderabad, lots of
all the marine.
Yes.
The whole marine story is the Andhra story, and there is stuff for Odisha.
Let me
these are
let me get in Pawan Verma for a quick comment. Pawan Verma is a former member of parliament. He just written a piece saying that this is a chance for the FM to be brave. Mr. Verma, was the FM brave according to you?
In my view, you have to ask yourself the question, what do you expect from a budget statement? Frankly, I'm a little disappointed because we were expecting a vision statement, and I'll tell you very simply why. The government has been in 2 absolute majorities and 1 stable majority for a 3rd term. The fiscal deficit is under control, inflation is manageable, the growth rates are above 6 to 7%. Given that, this was the time I felt that she should have made a major reform budget. Instead of that, in my view, what you got was overwhelming minutiae. Now you can decluster them and see what is going to help where. But there was no overarching statement for change. And I'll tell you in which sectors. Very clearly. Investment. The government keeps telling the economic tigers of India, why do you not invest more? Now, what have you done specifically in terms of ease of doing business, in terms of radical reform? Because you can tinker with the system, or you can give a blueprint by which investors feel confident of putting their cash-rich stocks back into the economy. There is also the other factor. Rajdeep, I'll take another 1 minute only. The fact is that today, those who invest face the fear that failure will be conflated with fraud. And even success may be penalized if you don't sufficiently toe the government line. But that's a political issue. They need more investor confidence. What have you done? For instance, I've just named 4 sectors. These are the elephants in the room, the ghosts in the room. You've got to tackle them.
No,
First
she's
of all,
tried to in some way give, she's tried to some way give industry some relief or tried to assuage their concerns over tax inspector Raj. She has spoken about that. The question at the end of the day is, again, what does it actually translate into a big picture? I think that's what it's coming down to. Has she been, I repeat, focused Raman or tinker Raman? There are those who are saying she's tinkered around too much. There are others who will say that she's at least given 8 or 10 industries a clear focus as to the path ahead. That, in a sense, Mr. Verma, as a quick final comment, seems to be where the debate lies. You wanted to give a vision statement on investor confidence. There are others who are saying that there are specific industries that needed to know that they are part of India's growth story, and she's tried to address that. Seafood is a good example of those who've suffered as a result of US tariffs in recent times. She's tried to address their concerns.
Okay, I'll just name 4 sectors where I was expecting, I have great respect for Nirmala ji, that she would come out with decisive economic steps akin to the 1991 budget, because we are placed at the same situation. One was ease of doing business. I felt she could have done much more. The second was, what do you do with the dole economy? Because you've got to move people either to employment or enterprise. You can't continue with the dole economy. Third is agriculture. It's plateaued. We need a second green revolution. Fourthly is unemployment. There had to be a massive push on skill development in an age of AI and automation where unemployment opportunities are drying up. And lastly, poverty. Poverty, you've got to lift all the boats of the economy. On per capita income, we are somewhere around 140 in the world, in spite of being the third largest economy. So where is that statement which kickstarts the economy in a manner which takes it to another level, rather than tinkering with the system and doing more of the same?
Siddharth, is this sort of binary that is being drawn, that there are supporters who are saying, look, she's focused on specific sectors, focused Raman, versus those that she's tinkered around too much, very much like a Pranab Mukherjee kind of budget, is what one of our panelists suggested.
Could this have been a dream budget? I would say the dream lies in the details. And if you look at the details, the argument can well be that instead of rhetoric, there are specific steps. Now, obviously, we might disagree with the nature of these steps or the fact that they are very minute in detail and it is not possible to comprehend. For example, just one quick instance, the defense modernization part of the budget has increased 22%. I keep saying that the details, and Rajdeep, you refer to that. Look at it in terms of reforms. Between the Prime Minister's announcement that had happened with regard to reforms, and this is what we have also been calling our coverage, Reforms Express, from Independence Day to now, 350 specific reforms have been announced so far. What this also tells me, today's budget also tells me, is that the process of announcing major changes will not be confined to this budget.
It will be outside the budget.
And it has happened. The 2019 corporate tax rate cut, which was referenced by the finance minister, happened on 17th of September.
The flip side is all the more she could have then used this occasion, if the reforms were taking place outside the budget, use this budget to give a clear direction as to this reform express. There
is a 7-7 path, Kartavya, path that has been expressed. That is the way the government wants to express it.
Dr. Baru, this is a strong point that is being made here, that many of the reforms have taken place pre-budget. What more do you expect the budget itself to do now?
No, look, I agree. That I don't disagree with what Siddharth has said. The point is this. There are 3 dimensions to the annual financial statement of the finance minister. One is fiscal, second is policy, and third is this, what you call tinkering, sectoral, Now, on fiscal, of course, we know what the fiscal deficit is, we know what the debt GDP ratio is going to be. So there is some stabilization there, and we are happy with it. We know that Finance Commission report has been accepted. So that's done. On the tinkering part, yes, in any budget speech, finance ministers have to be seen to be appealing to different constituencies. I have no problem with that. But the third dimension to the speech is to tell me this year, will all these initiatives take the economy from 6.5% rate of growth to 8% rate of growth over the next year? Because if you want to be Viksit Bharat by 2047, you need over the next 20 years an average rate of growth of 8%. compared to the average rate of growth of 6.5% over the previous 20 years.
Okay.
Now, how will these initiatives, which are essentially sectoral, we've been told each sector something has been done, but overall, will these budgetary initiatives really push growth forward by 1.5 percentage points over the next year or two? That is a kind of big picture thing a finance minister is expected to say in an annual statement to the parliament.
Dr. Barwal, quickly.
If you are traveling overseas, the TCS has been reduced. Earlier it was 5 and 20%. It is down to 2%. Very good rationalization of a measure that had been taken earlier. So yes, the devil lies in these details.
Himanshu Bed, co-chair of FICCI Medical Devices Committee, is joining us. Himanshu, how are you looking at the overall allocation or the message that is coming in for the health sector? Himanshu, if you heard me. Yeah?
Okay, we'll try and go to Himanshu in a moment. Amitabh Dubey, who's with the economic cell of the Congress party, is also joining us. Amitabh Dubey, the first reaction, predictably, of the opposition is to say that the budget is non-transparent. To be fair to Nirmala Sitharaman, that in fact, one of the criticisms that she's resorted to minutiae. So when you say non-transparent, what is the opposition trying to really say? When she's gone into great detail.
Look, Rajiv, I want to make the general point is that about the credibility of this budget, the numbers underlying the budget. We are told that in the economic survey that growth is 7.4%, which implies that the inflation rate is 0.6%. Now, in whose lived experience is the inflation rate 0.6%? And this is precisely why the IMF gave the national accounts a C grade, because the wrong kind of deflator is being used. So rather than the growth rate being so high, if we come up with a realistic assumption of the inflation rate, then growth is much lower. And that obviously throws a lot of these projections into question. And the budget, I want to remind you, is about growth, it's about investment, it's about deficits. These are the important parts of the budget rather than announcement of this or that scheme. And this is why I also want to remind everyone that on the 27th of February, we're going to have a new set of national accounts. So all of these numbers are going to be rendered quite meaningless. So this is one point, is that the entire premise of growth investment of this budget are very questionable. The second point I'd like to make is that we've had a series of announcements. Now, this government is a champion at making announcements, and then no one actually follows up to see what the execution is. So let me remind you that we've had huge announcements on this and that sector over the past 10, 12 years, Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And the net result is that corporate investment for the last decade has remained at 12%. It hasn't budged an inch. The proportion of the economy in manufacturing is under 13% compared with 16% of the UPA. So you can have all these announcements, but what is missing is execution, and the outcomes are all entirely on the negative side.
Well, some of those, the execution is also with the states. I think one of the challenges for the finance ministers to set you're part of a team and you've got various captains in different states. But Punita, you wanted to make a quick point. Yes.
No, you were saying that is it a focus budget or a tinker budget?
That's the binary I'm offering.
And I'm now putting on my fund manager, investment manager hat. We can run concentrated portfolios or diversified portfolios, and both can lead to good outcomes. This is a diversified budget with some focused areas. So it's like, 70% of your portfolio is going to be on certain areas and 30% goes to the rest. But for an investor, does it mean that there are really standing out areas that you would then change your portfolio and invest in certain sectors? A little bit, but not hugely.
Okay, since the initial reaction was, where is the word defense mentioned? Now, the details are here, and Siddharth, you can climb in on this. There's a big defense spend boost in budget 2026, says the government. Mammoth hike is what they claim in the defense budget. 7.8 lakh crores for 2026, and defense forces to get 1 lakh crores this year. Defense Ministry has allotted a budget of 7.8 lakh crores for 2026-27. Defense forces to get 2.19 lakh crores for modernization. Now,
so Rajdeep, that number, because a large part of the defense budget goes on the revenue account, which is salaries and pensions, and that breakup is available. That is why the focus has to be on modernization. And by my reckoning at this stage, and subject to any correction, this is almost a quarter hike, nearly 22% hike. in modernization. So clearly, as the fine print comes out, there is a substantial allocation.
Let's look at expenditure of major items as per the budget.
Transport is
number one, 5.98 lakh crores. Defense number 2 at 5.94 lakh crores. Rural development 2.73. Home affairs 2.55. Agriculture 1.62. Education 1.39. Energy 1.09. Health 1.04 lakh crores. Urban development 85,000 crores. IT and telecom 74,000. Commerce and industry 70,000. Social welfare 62,000.
One of the criticisms. Quick point. Dr. Baru knows it. He's sort of dwelt on this for a large part of his life. Most of our expenditure is already baked in. No government, even if they had all seats in parliament, can suddenly switch gear and say, I will completely stop doing things. You could call it a gravy train, but the Sarkar, the state in India, has